What's up, everybody? Thank you so much for joining us on another episode of the Survival Horror Podcast. I am your host of Nerd Space Games and the Survival Horror Podcast, Ruben, and I am joined today by two incredible content creators in the survival horror genre. First, we have RapidCrafter. What's up, man?
Yo, what up, everybody?
How are you doing today, man?
Pretty good, pretty good. How about yourself?
I'm getting by, but someone I'm extremely excited to have on the podcast for the very first time is Center for Evil. How's it going, my friend?
Doing pretty good, man. Just excited to be here and, to embrace a really good podcast that's going to be on the rise. And hopefully you guys are having yourselves a good day, and to every other viewer that's watching right now.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Honestly, guys, before we jump into today's topics and stuff, I just want to say I love both of your channels. Your channels are superior, crazy good, and I learned a lot of stuff from both of you guys. Really excited to have you guys on this podcast. I just started earlier this year, and honestly, I learned a lot of stuff from what you guys did, and I'm seriously stoked to have you guys on the show. So thank you so much for joining. I very much appreciate having you guys on the show.
Thank you, man. Of course.
Yep, we
You're one to
appreciate it
talk,
all.
making such amazing videos.
Oh, thanks, but
Of
honestly,
course.
I'm rusty. I need to do better about reading off of a script, because honestly, on my channel, you notice that I probably repeat myself a lot on my channel, straight up. So you guys are so professional and organized with your videos. You go look at my videos, and my videos are all over the place, a mess. And I respect what you guys do. Seriously, you guys are organized. It's clean. It's cut. I love it. Absolutely.
You'd be pretty
Thank you, I
blown away
appreciate
on
it.
how I edit my videos and how I basically work in that way.
Dang. I mean, you can't tell me. I mean, honestly, it just looks crazy good. The end result is crazy good. And eventually, I'm going to get up there with you guys. I'm going to try my best to get up there with you guys in terms of the quality. But keep doing what you guys are doing, please, because I love watching your channels. And I'm excited to talk to you guys about my favorite genre. I assume it's your favorite video game genre, if I'm not mistaken, obviously.
Yeah,
For
it's
me,
growing on me.
absolutely.
Of course. So we're going to jump into today's episode. Before we do, I want to let you guys know we are going to do a Q&A at the end of the episode. We're also going to take some questions that were left in the comments on last week's episode. So if you want to leave questions in the chat right now, we'll answer those at the end of the episode, as well as leave them in the comments if you're watching this video after we went live. You can leave it in the comments and we'll answer those questions next week. We love talking about survival horror, Resident Evil. Obviously, we all love more than anything. So any questions relating to that, or even outside of that, if you just want to ask us a random question, hit up the chat, hit up the comments, let us know. But let's just jump into today's topic. So before I start talking about that, I just want to say, have you guys watched anything from Gamescom at all? Did you guys see all the big announcements regarding Gamescom? Yeah.
I saw mostly.
Yeah, no. I honestly, I watched it live. I was going to stream my reaction to stuff, and then I'm glad I didn't, because it was kind of boring for most of it, actually. It was about 2 hours of very fillery stuff. There was some good moments, and we'll talk about that in a moment, but yeah, it wasn't the greatest show, at least for me, but maybe it's because of the type of games I like. I wasn't extremely excited about. But let's just jump into the news. We're going to start with the first one, and that is Deathground. Now, if you guys don't know, this is actually it's a survivor horror game that's releasing. I don't believe we have a release date yet. We got a teaser, an update on it. And the last time we saw anything on this game was 3 years ago. So we got an update on this game, and it's pretty much it's like Dino Crisis meets Dead by Daylight almost, because it's pretty much you are playing one of 3 different survivors in co-op or single player, and you're trying to escape these AI controlled dinosaurs, and you're trying to escape, from their wrath. And I said Dead by Daylight similarities, just because it's just all about escaping from them and stuff like that. I don't know too much about this, but the teaser looked good, and I'm excited to see more updates on this, because the last time we saw something on this was 3 years. Did you guys have a chance to check out that trailer?
Yeah, I did.
it was on my radar, and ever since I kind of just forgot about it. So I'm glad you mentioned it because I mean, when it comes to I think when anyone sees dinosaurs now, the first thing is like, "Where's Dino Crisis? Where's Dino Crisis?" This is probably the closest we're gonna get for a long time. So I'm excited to see how it turns out. Hopefully, it's actually good too.
Yeah, for me, I was kind of wondering on what necessarily was the similarity between the Dead by Daylight aspect, and then I saw you were able to hide into lockers, and I was like, oh, okay, I see where the influence came from. And I do hope this game succeeds because we do have, I would say, two new dinosaur games that have been released and showcased, which number one is Exoprimal, which I'm pretty sure Capcom fans easily know about. And now with Deathground coming out, I believe next year, I do hope if these games, like both of them, are received extremely well, this could possibly convince Capcom to finally remake Dino Crisis and for new Capcom fans and even Resident Evil fans to experience something like that that was all the way back in the PS1 era.
Yeah, honestly, and I'm kind of in the same boat as you. Actually, this game looks great, looks fantastic. It's not my Dino Crisis though. um,
Oh, easily.
I
Yeah.
want Dino Crisis so bad. Give me a long-awaited sequel, I guess. I don't know. Give me a remake is what I really want, but I don't know if Capcom's gonna touch it until after the Resident Evil series like has completely been milked dry, 100% for the remakes. But God, I want a remake of Dino Crisis so bad.
That is a good question that you mentioned the RE remakes because the funny thing is that I don't think they're going to be slowing down anytime soon about that stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah, 'cause a
Yeah,
lot of people are like, they're gonna slow down, and it's like, what more can they do after four? And I was like, what more they could do after four? It's just Capcom. I love Capcom, but they'll milk anything dry. Like they might even touch the spin-offs. Like, I mean, Code Veronica. I actually want
Code
to ask you
Veronica
guys this.
deserves one.
Yeah, most definitely. Because I remember I got like a ton of like people coming out to me when I said Code Veronica was a spin-off, and I was like, eh, it depends how you look at it, but from Capcom's perspective, they definitely look at Code Veronica as a spin-off. Even though it was supposed to be the original RE3, that's definitely how they look at it. But if there's any game that needs a remake, it's Code Veronica.
Right.
But
Logan,
like
you want to go
five,
first?
once you touch 5 and 6 territory, that's when you're like going a little overboard. But yeah, go ahead, Logan.
Uh, Sorry, I did end up missing out about 20 seconds of it though, because I ended up reading your chat, Ruben, that someone mentioned that no one was able to hear me, but I ended up looking back and I think it was good. But could you
Okay.
possibly refresh the last 20 seconds you were talking about there, Manny?
I think
Basically
he was.
saying like,
I think he
yeah,
pretty
so
much
like
said
Code,
that. Oh, go ahead. You go. You go.
I was just gonna say, yeah, no, Code Veronica. If there's any game, RE game that needs a remake next, it's most definitely Code Veronica. But
Yeah,
you
I,
know,
I
will
would
they touch
think.
5 and 6? Truthfully, they're going for five. Like I do 100% believe five's get a remake, but six, I think it really depends how five is remade because five isn't. You would think four would be a harder game to remake. I think five would be because there's just so many more problems in the way, like with the co-op, and it's a whole different ballpark.
Yeah, the AI functioning as well when you're playing single player as Chris or Sheva. Um, but yeah, I do believe that if there was anything sort of like talking about the RE remakes, I think CV should definitely get the treatment first because that is the most requested. Personally, for me, I would really love a Resident Evil Zero remake to have like a co-op survival horror kind of game. And I created a whole long video about like the ideas that I would have down about that, and mostly it would take a really long time and I don't want to like take up too much time about it though, but I do think if we're talking about the heavy risk of remaking another RE game, it's easily six because you got to change so much stuff about that because the plot was, I don't even know what it was. Atmospheres, the settings about either China or at Tall Oaks or wherever it was, none of it was really appealing. It was just like it was just there to run on. It's a confusing game to make, and that's why I just think they should not touch six. I understand five because if you include all the ports that Resident Evil 5 has gotten, it is the most sold RE game. But if you don't include it, it's RE2 remake. But if you end up remaking five, it's the biggest money making machine that you could possibly create. And I think Capcom could take advantage of that. And the post credit scene with Wesker talking about Ouroboros and all that, and just killing billions, I guess. And I would say the flower, yeah, all that stuff. But yeah, that's just my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, no, I want to touch on something that both of you guys actually said. I love how we somehow got to the Resident Evil remakes as a topic. I do want to touch on this real quick because Logan, you mentioned Resident Evil 6. I was shocked at how big of or how many fans of Resident Evil 6 there are out there when I joined this community, because I did a video, I think about a week ago, on like the top 10 things I want them to change if they actually did make a Resident Evil 6, or did a remake of Resident Evil 6. And people were like hitting up those comments hard. They were like, yo, dude, why are you going to remake, or why are you going to make these changes? Resident Evil 6 is great, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, damn, there's some like faithful fans of Resident Evil 6. I was surprised.
That's crazy, because I like personally, because obviously I did my tier list, and in that video it was more so like I wasn't really reviewing the games based on like a critical scale. It was more like how much did I enjoy them, and I think I actually gave 6 a B rank, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was a B or C.
That's generous.
And you can assume people were after me, but I was like, if I sit down, turn off my brain, and I don't have this like critical, like Resident Evil needs to be this, needs to be that, needs to be this, you gotta have this, you gotta have this. It just, if I turn that side of my brain off and just play the game, it is some of the most fun gameplay of the entire series, without a doubt. Really depends, unless you like the slower type of gameplay, but I can do both. And so for me, like the action side of things, 6 is just like, it's pure dumb fun. I think I even tweeted this out, like it's pure dumb fun. Like the gameplay itself to me isn't bad, but then once you tap into what Resident Evil should be, you're like, yeah, it's one of the worst games. But the reason why I bring that up is because as someone who personally likes 6 on that scale, in terms of like pure dumb fun, even though I like it that much on that side, the game has so many issues, and like, because it's kind of crazy like getting older and see how much people really don't like 5, and I'm like, after replaying 5 like a few times recently, that game is so much better than people like came after it for. So 5 is one of those more debatable ones, but 6 is like, I mean, if you like it, you like it, but it definitely is, like, without a doubt, one of the most, if not the most problematic mainline RE game out there.
Hey, I respect anybody that likes 6. I feel bad saying it, but to me, it wasn't necessarily the game. And I did say this, that the gameplay is actually pretty good in the game. My problem is that Resident Evil 6 tried to be so many things all at once. It got messy. Like, I mean, Leon's campaign, I would argue that that's actually a pretty good Resident Evil game for the most part. But then whenever you start diving down into Jake going Bruce Lee on a lot of the different monsters in the series, yeah, I'm like, all right, this is like, I don't know. I'm out. I'm tapping out here. But
yeah, I think I don't even think that this is a perfect analogy, or I'm just going to put it in a nutshell. I feel like RE6 was kind of like an RE CGI movie being a game, if that kind of makes sense.
It was like Vendetta the game. Like,
yeah.
And that's what it was.
Yeah, my favorite was Leon's campaign. I did like Jake's campaign because of the Usunok. I feel like he was really, really cool. Is this stuff turning into that show Riverdale where the main characters just get superpowers and whatnot?
It looked like the direction they were going, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, you could say that about Death Island with Jill slowly aging now, and it's kind of like making Sherry not so unique in a way. I don't know. Sure. It's interesting to talk about when it comes to that.
Yeah, that's the thing with 6-2 is its pacing. Like, beginning of the game, they kind of imply like, you snuck. Like, here's your new stalker enemy. And it worked fine at first, but then it's like towards the end, it's like you're fighting him hand to hand. It's just, it kind of gets goofy and over the top. Even though I actually like that final battle, it's still like goofy for an RE game. Because imagine that in a remake. Like, no one, you put that in a remake, people are gonna like, they're gonna fire it up. Be like, what is this?
All right, I'm going to get us started on the next topic, and then I'm gonna mess around with your audio center because it looks like it cuts in and out every now and then.
So I just read the chat message about that.
So I will get the next topic started, and then I'm gonna go silent for a second while I try to see if I can fix this. But so new Alan Wake trailer. We actually talked about this earlier at the beginning. Center, you were actually talking about this when you mentioned how one of the reasons why you checked out Gamescom after Gamescom actually happened was to check out the Alan Wake 2 trailer, and it actually focuses on Alan himself this time because we got a lot of gameplay of Saga Anderson, but we really didn't see too much of Alan Wake until now. And it seems like that Alan Wake has apparently been in this dark place, this alternate reality type place for 13 years since the original game. And it seems like that this game is going to explore what his mind's like, how he's trying to write himself out of this like location or something. And it actually incorporated a lot more live action elements to Alan Wake 2. And it was really cool to kind of see this side of Alan Wake 2. I really like us getting more focus on Alan because, you know, he is the title character. So I was really excited to see that. But I'm actually curious to see how much they're going to explore this live action, like reality type thing going on in this dark place. It's not the first time Remedy has explored combining live action with CGI type gameplay. But I feel like it's going to be more detrimental to the story itself. So I wanted to get your opinions about these different aspects, guys, and what you guys thought of the trailer overall. So, Rapid, if you want to get us started, I'm going to go take a look at the audio.
So for me, I have yet to see the new trailer. I've seen like a ton of different clips from it. But I will say someone who has yet to play the first game has yet to play it. And looking at this game from an outside perspective, this reminds me. I kind of make that comparison where the second game, Alan Wake 2, seems more like the Evil Within 2, where it's like now they're actually going to explore these more psychological elements and just like the Evil Within 2 focus more on Sebastian, or in this case, Alan. And, you know.
Hold on, let me cut you off real quick because apparently your audio messed up. I don't know what's going on. Sorry, guys, about technical difficulties. We're still kind of getting the hang of all of this. I'm going to try to turn your audio down. Maybe it's getting too loud to where OBS is canceling out. All right, Rapid, say hello to the fans. Let them know how you're doing.
Yo, what up?
All right, for now, go and continue on, and we'll see how it goes.
But yeah, to summarize, I was just saying it pretty much from an outside person's perspective who has yet to play any of the Alan Wake, or at least the first Alan Wake game. That's the comparison that it reminds me of, is Evil Within 1 and 2, where first game is what it is, and then the second game kind of dives deeper into the psychological elements, and it actually dives more into the character himself rather than just you know, the threat they're against or whatever else in the world. So I'm excited. Like I said, I haven't even played the first game, but seeing how hyped people are for the sequel, and even looking at, you know, clips of the new game, I'm like, it looks real good, real intriguing. So I'm excited to dive into it.
Nice. Sinner, I messed with your audio, so hopefully this works out pretty well. What did you think of the trailer, and what do you think overall of Alan Wake 2?
I like the psychological aspect of it. It feels like a more slower paced RE2 remake with the third person over the shoulder camera. I mean, I think this is my introduction to the entire series. I mean, I was aware of the first game, but never played it at all. And it's the same thing with the Evil Within series. I haven't played those games yet, but I've heard a lot of good things about it. But I do like the CGI aspect of it, or not that, the live action, I should say. And I think they're handling it extremely well in the trailers, and I think it'll just only get better once the game actually launches. And knowing that it actually ended up having a 10-day delay, I guess, I think it could possibly be for marketing reasons, maybe, because I don't know if there will be too much things that you could do gameplay-wise for a 10-day delay, but I think there's no worries about that. Yeah, I really do like that aspect of what Alan is going through, and I feel like it's just going to bring a whole new take to the story, especially with what we saw with the Saga at the Summer Games Fest gameplay showcase, I think last year or this year.
No,
Yeah, and I actually saw on Twitter, I'm not sure if it's official, but I saw on Twitter earlier that apparently the developers one of the producers or somebody, they actually admitted that they delayed the game because of Spider-Man 2.
They
So
did.
I'm hoping that's a good sign. Like they're really confident in their game to the point where they're just like, all right, let Spider-Man have its moment to shine, which it would have regardless. But obviously, from a business standpoint, you don't want to hurt yourselves in any way at all.
Manny,
Yeah.
you know what's hilarious with that?
What's
Go ahead.
that?
It's the fact that delay kind of thing happened exactly with another game. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order delayed all the way into April because RE4 remake was coming out on the 23rd.
Oh yeah, I
Absolutely
remember
funny
that.
that you mentioned that.
That's wild.
The actually to kind of add on to what you just said, Rapid. I keep forgetting his name. I think his name is Sam Lake. I believe is he the head of the developing team of Remedy. I believe he is. He actually came out and did an interview at Gamescom. He actually did an interview where he came out and said the reason why, because they posted that Twitter post too, which was kind of vague, but it seemed like it was hinting to the fact that they delayed it because of Spider-Man and Mario Wonder and stuff. And actually in the interview, he said that specifically that was the reason why they delayed the game, was because they knew Spider-Man was like a much bigger game. They wanted Spider-Man to get its time to shine. They knew Mario was also a big game, Mario Wonder. So they wanted that to get its time. And they actually delayed it by 10 days, specifically because they just wanted to get away from that window. And they own up that, their game isn't, as noticeable as Spider-Man or Mario. So I think they made the right decision.
And I actually respect that too. I feel like a lot of developers are scared to do that.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, there's people in different gaming communities that look at that as like greed, like all the developers. Well, it's a business, like you want your game to succeed. You want it to especially something like Alan Wake, because like Logan said, I've heard of it since the year it came out, but I never knew how much people loved it. Like I always thought it was, I don't know.
It's an underrated series for survival horror.
It is.
Yeah, and just seeing how many people love it and the gameplay I have seen so far, I'm just like, it seems like something that could really, like the sequel could be the game that puts this series on the map and then could turn Alan Wake into its actual, into an actual series like Resident Evil, or maybe not to that degree, but
it can be its own thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. That's true completely. I grew up loving Alan Wake. The original Alan Wake was released on Xbox 360 exclusively, right?
The first
I'm
one?
not too sure. Is
Yeah.
it? And they ended up remastering the game on all consoles, right?
I think so. I'm not 100% sure. Don't quote me on that, guys. I didn't look that up before. Just saying that. I'm pretty sure. In my mind, I remember playing it on the Xbox 360, and I don't remember why. And I feel like it was because it was exclusive at first on the Xbox 360. But I'm probably way off there. But anyways, it was exclusive on the 360.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. That makes me feel better. But yeah, so I remember playing it on the 360, and I think that's the reason why like so many people didn't get their hands on the original game, is because it was exclusive to the 360. Everyone knew that the place to go for all their big like huge IP and horror games was 100% the PlayStation. But 360 was kind of the big like multiplayer like field. That was the one that kind of like definitely hyped up the multiplayer side of things. But I feel like that's why Alan Wake wasn't as popular as, some of the other great survival horror games franchises out there. And it's sad because I think if it did come out on the PlayStation, it would have did better. But that's just my opinion. So we'll move on to the next one. I don't know too much about this topic. I think for sure Rapid here is going to know a lot more than I would because I never played any of these games. But Little Nightmares actually gets a new sequel announced at Gamescom, Little Nightmares 3. Rapid, I know you said you played the last two before or something like that, right?
Yeah.
All right, so let me know your thoughts on this. Is this a franchise I should check out? Let me know.
Little Nightmares, I don't know what to cater it to. I mean, it's really just if you like, it's weird because to me it was never like scary, like pure terrifying horror type scary, but it also wasn't like Five Nights at Freddy's like kid friendly type scary. Like it's its own type of like genre in a way. Because I remember the first time because I slept on it for the longest time. I didn't play the first game until like just a few years ago. And And the gameplay is simple. It's one of those like push things, pull things, hide, crouch. Like there's no, the gameplay isn't like necessarily crazy. But the visuals, the lore is like actually really good. It's not one of those like throwaway lore stories where it's like, oh, like this simple thing happened. Like the lore is actually really good once you get into it. In the second game, I don't think I ever finished. I don't know which one I like better though, but they're both really good because they both play very similarly. Both really good. And I heard apparently the third game actually isn't being developed by the same team. Apparently this is like a completely different studio, from what I heard. So that worries me a little bit because I'm not like the most hardcore Little Nightmares fan, but I love, both games. So I'm hoping that's a good sign because, a different studio could be a good thing or a bad thing, but I'm hoping that they do justice and do it right. But yeah, if anyone hasn't played them yet, yeah, they're definitely worth it. And they're short too. You can beat them in a few because I know the first game also has DLC. I can't remember if the second game had DLC, but I know the first one does. But yeah, they're super short games, but they're definitely worth it.
Yeah, I never played them. Dark Attack is telling me that I should play though. That apparently it's one of the best horror franchises out there. So I don't know. Maybe I need to check it out. Center, do you know anything about this game, this franchise?
Absolutely little to none, but I did see the reveal trailer for Little Nightmares 3, and for some reason it's kind of giving me the vibes of It Takes Two, but slowed down and just completely drastically more horror central. So it does intrigue like my interest, and I don't know if I should necessarily check it out, but yeah, I don't know too much about it. But I will say this though, a lot of the stuff in Little Nightmares 3 does look pretty solid.
You know what the concept of this reminds me, and you guys can like completely. I mean, Rapid, you know the games. Dark Attack is in the chat, and apparently he loves the games. Is this anything similar to Hello Neighbor, kind of?
Not at all. No, because it's
Okay.
it's a side scroller. I've never played It Takes Two, but yeah, it's one of those just like side scroller games where, um, I guess you could say it's kind of puzzle centric. It's more like it's been a while since I played them, but it's more like on rails. You're kind of just, it's more like sneaking around, you're hiding, because again, in this world, you're completely vulnerable. There is no like you get superpowers by the end, you can kill everything. Like it's one of those like it's in the name. You're just this tiny little thing, and everything is out to get you. Anything that sees you, it's like you're this little ant, running from all these dogs. Like it's like I said, it's a weird game. It's not like a because like Resident Evil or like Alan Wake, these are games you can kind of describe to someone in exact detail. Little Nightmares it's definitely not for everyone. Slower pace, very chill, relaxed, more laid back, in terms of the type of game it is. And I also noticed that Dark Attack said that it's being developed by Supermassive.
Oh, really?
Which are the people who made Until Dawn and
That's
all
right.
those
I forgot about
all those
that.
other games. So I have hope for that. I didn't like all of their games. The anthology games, a couple of them were really good. The others they were okay. So I'm hoping they kind of can translate that horror atmosphere that the other two had. But I guess yeah, it's common. It's a rare occurrence for me to see like an entirely different studio take over a horror franchise. So I'm hoping they do it justice.
Yeah, I mean, I have some faith in Supermassive. I don't know anything about Little Nightmares. I'll probably go back and play the other two, get around to it now. But I'm a huge fan of Until Dawn. Not a big fan of the anthology series. And then I'm a decent kind of okay fan of Quarry. So, Supermassive has, done some good games. They've also done some pretty crappy games. So Little Nightmares, does that make sense for a studio like Supermassive? Isn't Supermassive mainly those like very similar to like visual novels almost, like that very narrative driven stories? Does that fit the Little Nightmares theme at all in your opinion, Rapid?
Yeah, no, because it depends. Because if they start adding too much dialogue into like in Little Nightmares 3, because it's not really a game where it's like you're scrolling through text and dialogue or you're reading all these notes. It's really just you control your character the entire time, and then the world itself explains itself rather than you stop, read notes, kind of like Amnesia. where in those games the only way to really understand the lore is to read notes, which can be fine. But it gets to a point where that kind of turns into the gameplay. So I'm hoping it doesn't become that where you're just reading notes and you're, it's like this RPG where you're just talking to all these different characters. But I'm hoping they take the best parts of, like, for example, Until Dawn, where that game is really almost like the Telltale games, where it's not really about the gameplay that's so good. It's more so the story and the interactivity in the world. So I'm hoping they take those aspects and put that into the game instead of some of their not so good aspects from the anthology series.
Okay, so I might be coming back to you again, Rapid, because this is another franchise that I'm not familiar with that I think you're more familiar with. Center, you gotta let me know if you're in, if you've ever played any of these games. But that is Killing Floor, because Killing Floor also gets a third entry announced at Gamescom. So Killing Floor 3, are you excited about this, RapidCrafter? Have you played any of the previous installments?
The first one I played, I think I had like a demo, or maybe it was a bundle. I think there's a bundle where you can get the first two games. The first one's, it was like good. Like it was popular for a reason, but the second game, the best way to describe it, if you know the Payday series, Killing Floor 2 is like Payday 2, where it's like first game, good, great. Second game just, or like Left 4 Dead 2. First game is great, but the second game just completely knocks it out of the park, especially on PC, because there's a Steam Workshop. It's one of those games. I mean, it's COD Zombies. It's action packed. I mean, there's so many mechanics in the game, characters. I mean, you can put thousands of hours into that game. So, anyone likes action shooters, survival based games where you can mix and match your guns and customize and choose different classes and play with your friends, solo or co-op, it's definitely worth it. So the third game, I'm hoping they just take the second game and just translate everything from that game over and just do it better, better graphics, sound design, what you would usually expect from a modern AAA game.
Okay.
But it's worth it. I definitely check it out if you're into like COD Zombie. Or not, it's COD Zombies but ramped up. Imagine like a COD Zombies but like way
Back
more
for Blood.
like, yeah, like that, but like times two. Like it's really fast paced, really aggressive, really, super gory. So
You know what the teaser, and maybe this is not at all what this game is kind of like. The teaser trailer kind of reminds me of Doom, like a Doom Eternal. It definitely reminded me of Doom Eternal when I was watching this teaser trailer. Center, do you know anything about Killing Floor?
I honestly thought it was more of a slower paced kind of horror game, but until I realized that Manny just said that it's fast paced, it honestly does intrigue me a little bit because I was a little bit familiar with Back 4 Blood. I think I played the demo of it, and then that was probably it. But yeah, I thought the enemy reveal was really cool. I loved it, and then I saw a little bit of some gameplay aspects. I have some good hope for this game, and if it is going on to Xbox, then I would probably consider end up getting it.
Nice. Cool. Rapid, am I anywhere, or am I completely off base when I say it looks like Doom kind of?
oh no, because I love the Doom series. That is, now that you mention it, it's Doom with COD Zombies. It's basically what it is. Just super fast paced, super gory. I like it because it's not really just like stay in one spot like most games where you kind of just stand in one spot and just gun down a bunch of enemies. Like there's actually there's different modes where you have to like repair walls and doors, and it gets crazy. And plus, like with all the mods on PC, but yeah, if you like Doom, anything that's fast paced, it's definitely 100% worth it. I'm just hoping they stick to it because I think the second game came out. Let's see, release date. Second game came out in 2016, so yeah. Like I said, it's like Payday 2, where it's one of those games that's been alive for so long because of all the support, the community support. And there's even like dedicated YouTubers to it. I've seen like some YouTubers where like even to this day, that's all they post is Killing
Really?
Floor. So it's got its own dedicated fan base.
I don't know why I never heard of this series. I never even touched this game at all before. And I've never even heard of it until I saw this teaser trailer. And I'm like, wow, part 3. Let me go see what this is about. And then I'm like, finding out that's like the second one was like really great and stuff. And I'm like, all right, well, I guess apparently I've been missing out. I don't know. Maybe it's something else I have to check out.
I didn't start playing until like 2-3 years ago. So yeah, it took me a little bit to get into it because I thought it was just one of those like, because I played like every like round-based shooter like World War Z, Back 4 Blood, Left 4 Dead. So I was like, it's probably just another one of those, but it's different. It's definitely got its own vibe, its own thing. Doesn't really try to like copy anybody. So
Did you guys hear that beeping?
mm-mm.
I heard something
Nope.
weird beeping. Must
From the
have just been
stream?
on my end. I don't know. I just heard beeping. It was it was just on my end. I was like, wow, that sounds crazy. Something weird going on. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. Also, I just want to say thank you, Dark Attack. You've been helping us out a lot. Keep it up. Letting us know whenever audio cuts out. Seems like it's been a while since audio cut out. Keep letting us know. It definitely helps it out because we're obviously a new stream here. I'm new to the streaming field of things, so keep helping out, guys. So we're gonna move on to another announcement that was at Gamescom, and now this is we're kind of gonna start jumping to some more indie games. Seems like we've mainly been talking about indie games already, but something else that I'm personally extremely excited for that I don't think gets enough attention, and that is Post Trauma. So Post Trauma is honestly the easiest way to explain this game, in my opinion, just by looking at it. It kind of reminds me of like Silent Hill, but you take the main protagonist and you put them in like a subway, and boom, that's pretty much what you got. This game looks fantastic. It's a very old school survival horror like gameplay. I've been waiting for this for a while. We've seen trailers on this before a while ago, and we haven't seen an update in a while. And now we finally have a release timeline, not a release date, but a timeline, because it looks like it is coming out spring 2024, so hopefully in the next, what is that, 8 months. So I wanted to reach out to you guys before I go on keep talking. Let me know what you guys think about Post Trauma. Have you heard anything about this? Your thoughts on it?
Almost the first came out of nowhere. So I was still stuck on Killing Floor. Post Trauma, I've actually had this on my wish list since it came to Steam. Since they put it on Steam, but ever since haven't kept up to date with it. But like I've always said, any time I see any indie horror games that come out that have that classic horror feel, that's whether it's Silent Hill or Resident Evil, I'm all on board. You know, it's one of the few like I guess like genres or types of games where I never really like pay attention to the trailers because I'm like, I just want to go in completely blind, you know. If I hear an indie, horror game come out and it's like, oh, fixed camera and it's scary, I'm on board. You know, that's all I need. So, and the fact that you mentioned that it's like Silent Hill, I'm excited. Like I said, anytime any indie classic horror type of game comes out, I'm fully on board. Because to me, some of my favorite horror games are that classic horror feel. So, you know, the usual. I'm just hoping it's good because I know when it comes to indie games. Obviously it's hard to get your name out there. So any way I can support indie horror games that are like really good, this is definitely one that's been on my radar. So I'm excited for it.
Nice. Center?
Yeah, for me, I watched that reveal trailer, man, and just I'm kind of blown away on how good the game looks. Once I saw the enemy reveals, I was like, it was an eyebrow raiser for me. And it did give me a lot of Silent Hill vibes to it. I don't know if it will be a mixture of the kind of camera and how it is in Silent Hill with first person. I'm not too sure, or if it's just first person strictly, but oof, it looks good. I have a lot of faith into this game, and I think it has a ton of potential to be a really good kind of like, let's say, a little bit of a throwback, keeping the old classic survival horror kind of aspect to it, though, and it could be something a lot better than Tormented Souls, maybe. But yeah, I was immediately intrigued, and I'm sold on it. I just hope it's coming to Xbox.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it is, but yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's got me like, it's good. It's good. It's really good. The reveal trailer.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to this game for a while. I'm gonna look up in a sec to see they announced what I think the only thing announced is Steam as of right now. I have to pull that up. It might be coming to console too, but I'll pull that up in just a moment. But yeah, I've been looking forward to this game for a while. I'm doing a video later in this week. A little teaser for you guys, I guess. I'm going to do like the top 7 upcoming old school survival horror games. And spoiler, this is on there somewhere. I'm really excited for this because it's like those old school mechanics. It's that It's that old school like fixed camera angle, third person view, tank controls. It's that old school survival horror classic feel. That's why I'm really excited for it. I love those video games. Sure, the remakes of Resident Evil are fantastic. I'm not gonna shit on them at all. But I just absolutely adore the classic survival horror feel. And this seems like it's knocking out a park. You got the puzzles, you got the fixed camera angles, you got the really unique monster designs. Everything about this game looks really good. And I think it looks really good, especially for an indie project. So I cannot wait to get my hands on this. I think if you're a big fan of Silent Hill, you're probably gonna like this game because it's about going back and forth between a very like a dark world and just a regular subway. You're playing I don't remember the character's name. I think it's Ramon,
Roman.
but I don't remember the character.
I think it's Roman.
It is okay, Roman, and he's like a conductor at a subway. Hence why this takes place in the subway. And subways are scary. I don't know if you guys ever been to New York, but subways are scary as hell. So that's already a really cool location. So I'm all for it, but I can't wait.
I'm glad you mentioned puzzles too, because I agree. I love modern horror, especially the remakes of Resident Evil, but God, that classic horror vibe feel is it's different. Just without a doubt, it's totally different. And puzzles too. I feel like that's one of the biggest traits that most modern horror games are missing is the puzzles. Because to me, that's what breaks, breaks up the horror. You go through a section, go through a segment, and in between you have small puzzles, big puzzles. So like you said, I'm hoping it kind of provides that. These indie horror games are doing the old big horror games justice, because there's a lot of people in modern times that don't like that style, but there's also a majority of us that do. So obviously games like that, I'm always on board, excited for
sure. Cool. All right, so we'll move on to the next one. So something that we talked about last week was Stalker 2. You and I, Rapid, actually kind of discussed about a potential announcement coming at Gamescom for Stalker 2. I said the game might have been leaked and teased to release on December 1st because of a distributor posted on their website about the release date. It was December 1st. Obviously it could have easily been a placeholder date, which it turns out it was, because Stalker 2 actually gets a new teaser trailer at Gamescom, and it is actually delayed into, I believe, quarter1 of 2024. So instead of releasing this year, we're not getting Stalker 2 until next year. Wanted to reach out to you guys. I know, Rapid, we already talked a lot about Stalker 2 last stream, but actually, Sinner, I haven't had a chance to talk to you about it. Is this a game you're excited for? Do you know anything about it?
I'm not too familiar about it. I mean, some of it does remind me a little bit of Escape from Tarkov, maybe, but it did look good. There were a few things that kind of looked a little weird in the gameplay trailer, where it was like these weird bubbles or whatnot. I don't know what the purpose of them are, but I thought, the gunplay was good. Story could be something really good as well. I think it takes place in Ukraine, which is pretty crazy in this year and even last year. But yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting game that could pique my interest, but it's something that I might just not try to dive into, possibly.
Gotcha. Yeah. What about you, Rapid? We already talked. We're not gonna repeat ourselves talking about what we thought about Stalker 2 leading up into this. I guess just let me know what you think about this new teaser trailer, and what do you think about this delay. Let me know your opinions on that.
I think it looks great. I've been thinking that since the start. I know screenshots don't dictate how the final game will look and whatnot, but seeing the teasers and everything, I have high hopes for it. I'm hoping that all these delays, because this game was supposed to come out, it feels like forever ago, so I'm hoping all these delays actually means that the game will be good, not just one of those like, we gotta push it back just because. Like, I'm hoping this actually means that they're really putting everything they got into it. And if it lives up to the hype, this really could be like a home run. So wishing the best for the developers, and I hope it's worth it.
Yeah, no, for sure. And of course, this game has had a ton of different delays. The most recent ones were, due to everything going on between Russia and Ukraine. So 100% understand why they had to delay this game so many times. Totally respect that. I am excited for this game. I can't wait to get my hands on it. Hunter actually mentioned that apparently the visuals look like it had a downgrade. I didn't notice that as much. Maybe it's because I haven't watched the last trailer in a really long time. I do feel like that this new trailer didn't really show off too much more, which is fine. I'm already hyped and excited for it. I just wanted a release date. And at least since I have a window of when it releases now, finally, then I guess I'm good. I'm good with that. But I am excited for it. It's not one of my most anticipated games, but it's something that, is on my radar for sure.
Yeah, and if it did have a visual downgrade, I wonder if it's because they're putting it on last gen. Next gen only now I think it's
I think it was
last
wasn't
gen,
it, right? Yeah, maybe that's
yeah,
what
I
it
think
is.
so. So it could be, for the visual downgrade, which I hope doesn't hurt. As long as it doesn't hurt the gameplay, then it's fine.
Right. No.
But
Yeah. I mean, here I am talking about me falling in love with the old school classic survival horror games, and obviously visually they don't stack up against modern games. So
yeah,
graphics aren't a big deal to me as long as the gameplay is like really exciting and fun.
same here.
All right, so let's move on to our last topic before we move on to the poll questions and Q&A segment. Just a reminder, if you guys want to go ahead and keep posting questions in the chat, we will answer those. If you are watching this video not live, after the live stream have went up, then you can leave it in the comments and we'll answer those questions next week. But let's look at the last topic today, and that is Tormented Souls 2 announced at Gamescom, which is hilarious since Rapid, you and I just talked about this game. We just talked about the original game. We were just talking about how we had a lot of fun with it. I thought it was one of the most underrated survival horror experiences. I really enjoyed it. And then literally a few days after our stream, we get an announcement that Tormented Souls 2 is coming. I could not believe how...
Yeah, which is crazy because I would have never thought, because it feels like the first game just came out 2 years ago. No, from today, actually, August 20. That's crazy. Yeah, so
Yeah.
2 years ago today it came out, which is wild, and it's actually on sale right now on PC if anyone wants to check it out for $10.
Nice.
I mean, for an indie horror game, the fact that it almost makes me wonder if they had this planned or if the success was just so big to them that they just said, let's do it again. And I think they had their own booth at Gamescom and everything. So I'm hoping, like I said, I have yet to finish the first game. I will. Promise I will, but as usual, when it comes to sequels, the only expectation I have is just take what worked in the first game and double down on it. Add some new things, new mechanics, but don't stray too far away from what made the first game so good. But yeah, definitely on my radar too. I'm excited for it.
Yeah, no, I am pumped. I can't wait to get my hands on that because I actually love Tormented Souls. One of the biggest things I hope that they work on is the story. I'm not going to get into spoiler territory because I know you haven't finished the game, Rapid. Center, I will talk to you in just a moment about it. But yeah, the story needs to be just a little bit more concise. But honestly, there was a lot of puzzles. It was a very difficult game, actually, in my opinion, until you got the hang of things. And it was that classic survival horror feel that I was just talking about earlier when I was talking about post-trauma. I got the same feels from this game. I got it more so because you actually bounce back and forth between two different worlds. Silent Hill, anybody? And you were pretty much going back and forth between these worlds, but then you were also kind of time traveling, sort of. There was a lot of mechanics that were really cool about this game, and I'm so hyped that it's getting a sequel. Center, tell me what you think about Tormented Souls. Have you played it? And your thoughts on the sequel getting announced.
I didn't play the first game. I did hear a lot of good things, but there were a lot of other things about the first game where they could have improved it, I guess, from what people were saying about reviewing the game. It had a lot of potential. And with the second game, I do hope that they do that because it does look good. I mean, I'm glad that they are bringing back the old protagonist again. I think there could be a little bit more to her story, or don't know if it closes off or whatnot, but sometime in 2024 is the release date, which is interesting because it feels like a lot of indie horror games it honestly could be that year. 2024 could be the year for indie survival horror games, and I think that's a good thing because 2023 felt like the year of remakes with 4 Remake and Dead Space. So I'm looking forward to Tormented Souls 2. I don't know if the first game is on Xbox, and it always did pique my interest for some reason, but again, just never took advantage of it.
Right. No, I mean, it definitely had issues. Like the controls were a little bit clunky, even for that classic old school survival horror feel. Some of the puzzles were extremely difficult. Like it took me a
Yeah.
long time to solve some of them, and I got stuck for a really long time. But there was just so many mechanics that they played with time travel, where like if you do something in the past, it'll change the future. So when you come back to the future, like this might be done. I mean, this might be different, and it changes. Like a different door might be unlocked if you change something back in this timeline. So it was really cool, some of the mechanics they had with it. I hope they took a lot of criticism and they apply this to the sequel, because honestly this game is fantastic and I definitely recommend anybody checking this out. It's funny that you mentioned survival horror, next year being a year for survival horror games, because you're right, there are a lot of survival horror games that are coming out next year, especially indie survival horror. I felt like this year was like the year for the AAA survival horror experiences, and then next year is like the indie survival horror year, because you have Alan Wake 2 coming out later this year. You have Alone in the Dark coming out later this year. Maybe we still don't know where Silent Hill 2 is, but that's still anticipated for this year or early next year. But then next year we have like all the indie titles coming out, and it's just crazy that I feel like we live in the era of survival horror, and I love it. I love the timeline that we're in right now, guys, because I feel like we get so much more survival horror games than we used to, and I absolutely adore that fact 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, like you said, next year really could be the year for indie horror, so I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm pumped. I love my indie horror games. I think I might like them. I mean, other than like Resident Evil, Silent Hill, but my indie horror games are the ones that knocks it out of the park for me almost every time. Well,
Oh yeah.
not every time, but you have some not so great ones.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else on Tormented Souls before we move on from there?
I think that's everything for me.
Cool. All right. So let's go to the poll questions, and then we'll jump to the Q&A, guys. So let's first start with poll question number 1. I actually did 2 this week. The first one I actually did a poll question on, and it's something I was really interested to kind of see what everyone was thinking. And after getting roughly around 5,000 voters, we asked the question, which of these 3 survival horror games are you most excited about? Is it Silent Hill 2, Alone in the Dark, or Alan Wake 2? So before I get to the results of the poll, I want to get your opinions. Which of those 3 survival horror games are you guys most excited for, and why? I'll start with Center first.
Alan Wake 2 for me, because Silent Hill 2 apparently isn't on Xbox, so I'm kind of bummed out by that.
Oh, that's heartbreaking, man.
Yeah, very. But maybe with this 300 plus silence, no pun intended, that they're hopefully putting it onto the other side of consoles. So fingers crossed for that.
Right. All right. What about you, Rapid?
For me, Silent Hill 2, which is crazy because I've never actually finished a Silent Hill game before. But
Dude.
I know, right? But I played so many of them, and trust me, I do have plans to play through the entire series, even the spin-offs, the bad games, whatever else is out there, at some point. But yeah, Silent Hill 2, just because I love classic games getting remakes when it's done right. And if it wasn't Silent Hill 2, definitely Alan Wake 2, which again is crazy because I've yet to play the first game. So I'm glad Halloween's coming up because it's the perfect month to do all that. But if I had to choose, definitely Silent Hill 2, just because I would say I like psychological horror more, but it seems like that's what Alan Wake 2 is really going to be. And it seems like that's what the first game kind of was for the most part, as far as I know. So it'd probably have to be a tie, really, between those 2 games.
Yeah, I've been wavering back and forth between Silent Hill 2 and Alan Wake 2. I think ultimately I give it a Silent Hill 2 just because Silent Hill 2 is a fantastic game. And I just absolutely adore Silent Hill as a series. I just replayed the original Silent Hill game and had so much fun with that. I'm about to replay the second Silent Hill game probably within the next couple days. I love Silent Hill as a series, and I'm so excited that it's getting some attention again. I do think they should have remade the first game first, but, whatever, their decision. But I am really excited that it's getting a lot of attention. I think the only thing that holds me back a little bit, and I almost went with Alan Wake 2, I think it's because Bloober Team is the one that's behind Silent Hill 2. And full respect to Bloober Team. I think they're a very great developer. I think they have some success when it comes to horror games, but I just feel like they really lack the full blown in your face, like actually nailing it perfectly. Like they it seems like they're always getting close, but never exactly there with the survival horror genre. And I hope I'm wrong, but I feel like Bloober Team could mess up Silent Hill 2. Hopefully that's not the case, but you know, they have the story in front of them. They just have to kind of stick close to the source material. They're good at environmental horror, I'll give them that. So as long as they focus on that and kind of expand on Silent Hill 2 a little bit more and focus on the source material, I think it will turn out fine. But yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I played all of Bloober's games. There's the one I can't think of, but I played Blair Witch. Blair Witch was one that I was really hyped for. That turned out to be disappointing, and I don't want to like take this as like, you know, I have yet to play a Bloober game that has really hooked me. And like you said, I think environmental wise, they really, for the most part, not quite there, but for the most part, that's probably their best aspect. But considering that Silent Hill 2 has combat and or not really resource management, but it's definitely a different, yeah, it's definitely a different type of horror from what they usually make. So I'm hoping, considering it seems like this is their first real horror game, this isn't just like a little like indie game. Like this is Silent Hill. Like this is a widely received, like really beloved series. So, like you said, I'm hoping they do it right. Because you know, if it's anything like their other games, I think it'll be at least okay. But you know, I mean, you're remaking Silent Hill 2. I mean, that is to most people their favorite Silent Hill game. I mean, that's like the RA4 of the Silent Hill series, from what it seems like. So I'm hoping they really get it down and you know, they take all the feedback from from their other games and they do Silent Hill justice. So
it's funny
hopefully
that
they
you
don't
said
mess
that,
it up.
Manny, because my next video that I was thinking about dropping within the next 2 days was going to be about where the hell this game has been. And the fact that you mentioned that this is kind of like Konami's RE4 remake is exactly what I was going to say in that vid. So I'm kind of like just giggling inside about that. But
yeah,
I mean, yeah, it's just I hope they don't mess it up, man. I really
it's also
don't.
what scares me too is the fact that they announced so many Silent Hill games.
Yeah,
Which
and they had it like, I think Neobard's Entertainment is doing Silent Hill F, which is the one that takes place in like 60s Japan or something like that. And they were the same
yeah,
developers that did Reverse. But then again, I'm
mhm.
not going to hold them to that because a shitty Resident Evil multiplayer game, you're not going to care about that much. Like Capcom hasn't even cared about a Resident Evil multiplayer game since Outbreak, personally.
Yeah, my head canon is Capcom just told them not to put too much effort into those games, just to hold people off. And
Yeah, it's like, we know the potential of this game, but just like don't bother doing anything with it. Just update a few characters that no one cares about, and then yeah, just go with it since then, and then just let the 5 remaining players on REverse just duke it out every single match.
yeah, because I'm pretty sure Reverse probably I'm really curious as to what the budget for that game was because they reused assets from all the games. I mean,
And wasn't it in the RE engine?
yeah, so they put like $20 into that game. Like, here you go, do something with it. But yeah, back on topic. Yeah, I'm hoping it's good. I'm hoping all the Silent Hill games are good. I'm hoping Silent Hill really makes a comeback and it's not just they try to make a comeback and it's just a failed attempt because I mean, Silent Hill fans have been starving. I know that for a fact. So I'm hoping.
It's been like 10 years since their last game, right?
That was what, Downpour?
Yeah,
Right?
Yeah.
I think Downpour was the last one.
So ooh, yeah, so yeah. Hopefully they do it right. I'm praying for you Silent Hill fans.
But I don't mind that they're taking a 300-day silence because I would rather have them take their time with this project than rush it. I think this is a game where it's like, you got to take care of this and you got to do everything you possibly can to make it really, really great. So don't make it RE3 remake type.
Yeah, because again, this could be like Capcom's remakes, where if this is really successful, especially if it catches the eyes of remake fans from Resident Evil, they're definitely gonna remake 1, 3, and so forth. So
They did it with Dead Space, so I hope they do it with Silent Hill 2.
I can't wait for a Dead Space 2 remake. Dead Space 2 is my favorite. So I love that. I love when a remake's done right, and the developers are motivated to continue on and hopefully put equal amount of effort into every game. So
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I pray that Silent Hill 2 remake, hits a home run because I want more Silent Hill games. And I know we're getting a lot of Silent Hill games, but none of them really look extremely exciting. All of these different projects that they announced all at the same time, which I don't know why they're doing this, but whatever. I Silent Hill 2 remake is the one I'm most excited for, and I hope they build upon. They kind of learn from that game if it succeeds and kind of build upon the series, and we start getting remakes similar to what we get with the Capcom remakes, because I want Silent Hill to succeed. I love Silent Hill, and I think it's one of those franchises that hasn't gotten a lot of love until recently.
For sure.
yeah, hopefully it makes a comeback. Wishing the best.
See what happens. Bloober Team really has a chance to either get a lot of attention and everybody praise them, or get a lot of heat and no one really trusts them anymore. So we'll see how this goes for them.
I do
Yeah.
hope they are aware that there is a lot of pressure on them.
And they know. They have to know.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go to poll question number 2. And I actually asked this one because I was doing a video earlier in this week, and I honestly was having trouble deciding which one of these actually was more difficult. But I posted a question in the poll, and I want to get your opinions on this. Which Resident Evil final boss was easier? Was it G. Perkins' final form scenario B of Resident Evil 2, or Evelyn of Resident Evil 7? What is your opinions, guys? We'll start with Rapid this time.
It's actually a tough one. I'd have to put them tied because they both really were just on rails scripted fights. I mean, the beast scenario final fight, you kind of just stand in one spot until you kill it. And then same with Evelyn, it's kind of the same thing. You're really just, you cannot touch your joystick for both fights. You cannot touch your joystick. You can just one hand with the controller the entire time and kill both bosses easily.
Just
So-
hold RT or R2 or whatever your shoot button is, and then you're good to go. You don't gotta worry about anything else. I don't even think you even need a single health item.
Yeah,
Yeah,
pretty much.
But if I had I don't know. I would say, truthfully, this is going to be a hot take. I would actually say Birkin's final form in the beast scenario was easier because you can do that entire fight, from what I remember, without getting hit. Whereas with the Evelyn fight, you're scripted, to get hit. And on harder difficulties, it doesn't change much, but still the fact that you can get hit. So for being technical, Birkin's final form is easier because you can do that fight without getting hit at all. Whereas with Evelyn, doesn't matter what difficulty you play, you're scripted to get hit. But for being realistic, both fights are basically the same. They're both scripted. They're both just hold RT until the boss is dead. So, but I'd say
Yeah.
Birkin, just because you can do that entire fight without scriptedly getting hit. So
I would say Birkin too, because you can use a rocket launcher as Leon if you conserve your missiles for Mr. X or whatever. And then if you have like 2 remaining, you can just shoot both of them quick.
yeah,
And then he's down to like, I guess, half health. And then, yeah. But for Evelyn, it's just, I think you use the submachine gun and your pistol, hold RT, you get knocked down by like 30 feet. Chris somehow drops you the Albert model, and then you hit her 3 times, and then that's it. So I think both, yeah, they were just too easy.
Yeah,
But
no,
yeah,
that was something, because I was trying to do a video on the easiest Resident Evil bosses, and I'm like, these guys are literally the same boss fight, and I could not decide. Ultimately, we'll talk about the poll results of this one and the last one, because I forgot to mention the results of the last one. But ultimately, I personally went with Evelyn being a little bit easier, mainly just because with Birkin, leading up to that boss fight, you are going up against G3 Birkin, and then either if you're playing as Claire or if you're playing as Leon, you also had to fight G4 Birkin or Super Tyrant. So at this point, you're already low on ammunition, and if you get to that's the end of scenario B to face Final Form Birkin, and you don't have a lot of ammunition to use, well, you're pretty much screwed, because if you get too close with your knife, he can instant kill you. So I think I ultimately went with Birkin for that reason, whereas Evelyn, I feel like, resource management wasn't a big issue in Resident Evil 7, at least in my opinion. You guys can tell me your thoughts on that. And getting to Evelyn in Resident Evil 7, I felt like that I had plenty enough resources to actually put her down easily. And even even though there's a phase 2 for Evelyn, you get an additional weapon to use in that boss fight as well with the Albert model that Chris throws you. So ultimately, I think I said Evelyn was a little bit easier for that reason, but honestly, they're like on the same level.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I was being like realistic, it's like they're both tied in their own ways.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But I agree, yeah, because with Evelyn's fight, yeah, I mean, and in the boss room where Evelyn spawns, they actually give you extra ammo in that room too, so it also adds that factor as well. So it's yeah, I could see how that could be easier.
All right, so just to talk about the results of the poll, and then we'll get to the Q&A segment. If you guys haven't already, make sure you leave questions in the chat, and then after the video, you can leave comments as well. But poll question 1 results for that one, since I missed that. It was, which of these 3 survival horror games are you most excited for out of 5,000 voters? It looks like Silent Hill takes it with 79% of the votes, Alan Wake with 14%, and Alone in the Dark with 7%. I'm not surprised Silent Hill won the poll. I'm more surprised about the gap between Silent Hill and Alan Wake. I thought it would be a little bit closer. Not extremely close, but at least a little bit closer. But so that was shocking.
That is kind of shocking.
I think if you did end up making the poll after the Alan reveal trailer and his gameplay aspects, I think it could have gotten a little more.
That's true.
But I do say though that it's Silent Hill. I think fans, they're finally going to get their food's worth with 2 remake and the other games that are coming out, like Townfall, Ascension, and F.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I think that's probably why that there is a huge significant gap in that.
Silent Hill fans are eating pretty right now for sure.
I'm glad they are, because us RE fans are pretty damn spoiled.
I know, we are pretty spoiled, aren't we? So, and the results of the other poll question was it went 27% to G. Birkin's Final Form Scenario B and 73% to Evelyn. So 73% agreed that Evelyn was the easier boss fight of the 2.
Wow. I can see that though.
I saw a lot of
I
people fighting in
Evelyn.
the comments giving different reasons. I think one of the biggest reasons was talking about the limited resources with Birkin that popped up a lot. So it does make sense.
Yeah. Yeah, resource wise, yeah, I'd say Evelyn wins for sure.
Yeah, they both have an instant kill attack. If they get too close to you, they both take up the whole damn room, and they both are just like one big glob of a figure heading towards you. So very similar, very similar. All right, so let's go to the Q&A segment. It looks like we actually have a ton of questions in the chat. We'll get to those in just a moment. Well, we should be able to get to all of them. Stream's a lot shorter, thankfully, compared to last week. We were double the time. But so we'll get to the questions that were left in the comments of last week's video first, and then we'll start to get through all the questions you guys left in the chat today. So first off, and I'm going to ask you guys each of these questions. First off, from Javi Rod, he asks, what can dual effect do differently with Tormented Souls 2 to improve on its predecessor? I think we touched on this a little bit, but either one of you guys want to take it away first? Well, actually, I guess I should, since Sinner, you haven't played it.
I think it should be both of you guys compared to me, so I'm just going to stick out of this one.
I'll go first, and then Rapid, if you want to comment on a little bit, because I know you played a little bit of Tormented Souls. But basically, the biggest thing I think is the story. They definitely have to improve on the story. I think that was one of the weakest parts of Tormented Souls. I don't want them to make the puzzles extremely easy. I know that was a big complaint, that people felt like the puzzles were too difficult. I love difficult puzzles. Maybe make them a little bit easier, or give a different... I don't remember if they had this in the original game, and if they didn't, take a page out of Silent Hill's book. Silent Hill actually has it to where they have difficulty rankings for the puzzle specifically, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So if you maybe have like puzzle difficulty and then gameplay difficulty, if you do that for Tormented Souls, then you let people kind of choose how difficult they want the puzzles in the game to be. And the last thing I would probably say that would really help improve the game would probably be to kind of explore that time travel aspect more. Because I thought that was really unique that Tormented Souls did that, to incorporate that into a survival horror experience. I thought it was really cool to like go back in time, change something here, and then it would solve a puzzle in the future. That was a really cool mechanic. So those would be my top 3 things to change for the sequel. Rapid, do you have anything?
Yeah, the time travel thing for sure. It's one of the most unique elements, so definitely double down on that because it helps your game stand out, especially. Obviously, controls. For me, I guess a personal hot take, but I don't think there's been a single video game I've ever played where I found the controls like unbearable. Like I played some games with some really bad controls, but for me, I'm more like I'm somebody who can kind of adjust. I kind of believe in almost like the Souls games where it's frustrating. It's either your thing or it's not. But I'm all about learning. Like learn what is there for you for the sake of the game. That made no sense. What I'm trying to say is like learn whatever the game throws at you, learn that for the sake of getting through the game. Like Resident Evil 4. A lot of people didn't touch the original because of the controls. But for me, like I used to always say, like when it comes to controls, like I was like 8 years old and I was playing these, classic style games. And there's people who are way older than me now who struggle with these types of games. So it kind of boils down to just, I believe in just learning the controls, but I could see why it could be frustrating, especially for modern audiences, especially for an indie game, because most people might touch it and be like, oh, this is too clunky, and they'll put it down. So definitely tune up the controls, focus more on the time travel elements and the puzzles. So the puzzle balancing is hard. I like your idea where it's kind of just, there's a puzzle difficulty and then a gameplay difficulty. That's probably like the best way to go about it because I don't like easy puzzles. For example, like Resident Evil Village, the puzzle with the piano where there is no penalty. You could just push any key and then you get it, you get it down. Which is what I feel like what most Resident Evil puzzles have turned into, where it's just a matter of just mindlessly button mashing until you get it. I like puzzles like classic games where you actually have to sit there and think, and even sometimes write stuff down. I mean, even like classic games, that's what I found myself doing when I was a kid. I'd get a notebook and I'd write stuff down. Like it got to that point.
I still
yeah,
do
where
that.
it's like,
I love doing that.
Yeah, like I like that idea of investing into a game like that instead of just mindlessly like A plus B equals blah blah blah, or 1 plus 2 equals. No, I want something that's more challenging but not impossible, where it's like you got to run across the entire building and then figure out this entire math equation and times two. It's way too much. I'm trying to play a horror game, not solve a math equation. So
everybody does that nowadays, though. Everybody, like, instead of actually writing stuff down in notebooks, which I love doing, everyone nowadays, now the new thing to do with puzzles like that is just take a picture of it. They'll take a picture of it and run to wherever they got to go and then use the picture to get it solved. Or they'll just look it up online nowadays where we have internet now. So people can just look up the answers to solve the puzzles and they're fine with it. So,
yeah. So hopefully they just not necessarily tone down the puzzles, but kind of keep that same feel and style. Just, make it more accessible like Resident Evil or older Silent Hill games or even other horror games where it's like look in the mirror, but you have to look at a certain angle and you can see a certain letter or the dirt on the ground, just like little things like that that are obvious, not too obvious, but also not like, straight up in your face, actually requires the player to think a little bit. Because I feel like players get more invested, especially in horror games. I feel like you're more invested when you actually have to think a little bit, but not to the point where it's frustrating or it makes the player want to give up and shut off the game. So
I feel that.
I'm hoping the best. I'm excited for it. I can't wait to see what they do with it.
Same here. Second question, also from Javi. I hope I'm pronouncing your name wrong, buddy. Javi Rod. Do you think we'll ever get an Evil Within 3? I'll let you start. Or Center, do you want to actually start off this time?
It's gonna be a little short though, but I think. It's gonna be a little short though, but I think I'm putting the Evil Within series along with the Revelation series. I think both of those franchises deserve their trilogies. And I think on how many horror games have been getting produced, like Dead Space Remake, 4 Remake, Silent Hill 2, the other games, Tormented Souls 2, I think Little Nightmares, like just the entire bunch. I feel like it could be a really good time to finally get a trilogy going with Evil Within 3. And I think they deserve it. I think they've been very underrated. And I've heard honestly nothing but praise from them, especially from the first game. But yeah, ultimately I think they do deserve it. I don't know if there's anything more to like go with for Sebastian's story or anyone else in the games, so I think they deserve it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I'll touch on that in just a little bit. But Rapid, do you have anything?
Yeah, oh yeah, most definitely. Because like I said in the last podcast, that is probably my second favorite horror series. And apparently, I'm pretty sure this is confirmed, but Ghostwire, they're not their last game, because I think their last game was actually Hi-Fi Rush. Before that, Ghostwire Tokyo, that actually started off as Evil Within 3, apparently. So that gives me like really high hopes that like they're all for it. Like the fans really want it and they're willing to do it. I just know that they're discouraged because apparently the last game didn't sell as well, which is why it's taken so long to kind of work on the third game in this series. But yeah, I agree. Sebastian's story is pretty much done. Because the second game, I mean, he kind of goes back and really it's just about saving his daughter because he thinks she's dead and finds out they're using her, and so he saves her. And it's like, what more can you do with this story? I know there's because the story wise, it's actually there's a part of him that's still in that world stem. So you could do a third game where it's like you play Sebastian and you go back and you got to find your old self, but it'd be repetitive, and we've already seen that, a little bit of that in the other two games. So if they do a third game, definitely we need an entirely new protagonist. I would say you could, like, I don't know, his daughter, like when she's growing up or something, but I feel like they should move away from those characters and just come up with an entirely new cast. And maybe bring in those characters for cameos or something. But in terms of a third game, I mean, yeah, most definitely. Like, there needs to be a third game. Hopefully, at least.
Okay. So I agree that there should be a third game. I think they need to come out with a third game, and I think it's money on the table. I don't know if it's more likely that we get a third game though, or if the studio is just going to say, fuck it, let's remake the first one. And I know it doesn't need a remake. It obviously does not. But the problem is that remakes are doing really, really well right now, especially remakes of like survival horror games. And they know that Evil Within is already a good formula with the first two games. So it's possible they can turn around and just be like, hey, let's remake the games, maybe remake 1 and 2, and then from there we can build up upon it once we establish the survival horror series again, because it's been a while since we got Evil Within 2. I don't know. Do you guys know off the top of your head how long it's been?
I think it came out 2017, I think.
2017?
Yeah, somewhere around there, I think.
Roughly 6 years now.
October 2017.
So I think they might want it to kind of like revitalize the series and kind of bring more attention to it. I hope it's not in the form of a remake. I think Evil Within 3 is a better idea, but I just think they might see the money and they might just be like, hey, you know what? Let's go for the sure shot. The remakes of survival horror games are knocking it out of the park right now. Every survival horror game that gets a remake does really well. Resident Evil 4, Resident Evil 2, maybe not Resident Evil 3, Dead Space, which could be considered action horror. That's a whole different topic. And System Shock is another one that can kind of sort of be in that same realm. So games like that are doing really, really well. I just think that they might go where the money is at. And I think they're just a little bit nervous about just doing a sequel to Evil Within 2 when, like Sinner said, that game didn't sell that well, didn't meet expectations. So I think it's possible that they might just attempt a remake. But that's just me. I hope that's not the case, but that's how I feel.
Either that, or if they don't do a third game, either like a light reboot.
It's true.
Or some sort of, I don't know if a spinoff would do. I feel like a spinoff would be better if the series had more momentum. So I think if anything, like some sort of like light reboot or something.
Yeah, I think light reboot would be okay too. I just don't know if they're going to, and even if they did a third Evil Within game, I think it would have to kind of be to bounce off of what you just said about a spinoff. I don't think it can be titled Evil Within 3 because that's going to mess with the potential player base they can get in today's modern era. Because people are going to feel like, oh, well, I haven't played the first two, so I might have, I would have to go back and play those first. And unfortunately, I think that will mess with their player base that they can potentially get for Evil Within 3. And I don't know. I do think they need to do something, either like a spiritual successor, or they need to do a reboot or something, because survival horror right now is on the rise. We talked about that earlier. And survival horror has a lot of money on the table right now, so Evil Within should try to dip into it somehow. Rather it be a sequel, a remake, a reboot, whatever. They just need to get in with that money.
Yeah, the biggest thing too is marketing, especially since horror games are making such a big comeback. Like, marketing is like one of your the top things you should be doing. They can't do what they did with Hi-Fi Rush, which is their last game, where they kind of just shadow drop it. And even though it was hugely successful, like not every game's like that. So, that's another big thing too, is like marketing. Like, how do you market the game to an audience where it's like you bring back the old fans, but you also bring in new people who have never played the series before and show them like, hey, like this is what we have to offer. So
Yeah, if you can find a way where you can tell the new fan base that you don't have to play the original games to get this one, it would definitely make people feel a lot better jumping into it.
Yeah, for sure.
That being said, if I had a choice, I would want Evil Within 3. I just don't know if that's likely.
Yeah.
So moving on, let's talk about this question from Mushroom Kingdom Pal. Do you think Silent Hill 2 will be releasing this year still? I'll answer this real quick and then I'll bounce over to you guys. Earlier this year, I would have said yes. Now, I'm not so sure. I think there's way too many AAA survival horror games already this year. I think they might want to bounce back over to the beginning of next year. That's my opinion. Sinner, what do you think?
I don't see it happening at all. I think if we're gonna get any sort of info, I think it would necessarily be maybe Game Awards in December. There's literally been nothing aside from just the reveal trailer. There's no gameplay. There's nothing. So I'm ultimately thinking that Bloober team, they should take their time with this, and I think they are. And just do it when you're ready, and then that's when you can market. That's when you can do a demo, gameplay reveals, character reveals, whatnot. So I think definitely, if I had to base a prediction, I'd say around springtime 2024, something very similar to 4 remake like this year.
Okay. Rapid, what do you think?
Same here. I agree. I'd say ever since like a month or so ago, I kind of just lost hope. I was like, I highly doubt I don't think they're gonna release it this year. What Logan said, 2024 of spring is probably most likely. It seems like they're really following in the footsteps of, the Resident Evil remake. So,
I don't blame them.
they're probably just gonna do the same thing. Just drop a demo a month or so beforehand and release the game sometime in spring.
Yeah.
So that's my prediction.
I agree with that. If they were going to release it this year, I think we would have seen more marketing on it by now.
Yeah.
With how little marketing we've seen on it, I find it hard to believe it's releasing this year. I think we might see a Tokyo Game Show, but I think Logan is right. I think the most likely scenario is that we probably see it at the Game Awards. So.
Yeah.
Okay. So moving on to number 4, the last question that we had last week. From Clinton the Bird Guy, what is your favorite indie survival horror game? Does anybody want to start?
Visage scared the fuck out of me.
What's it called?
That's
Visage
crazy.
scared
You
the
brought
fuck
that
out
up.
of me.
Visage?
I don't think I can play that.
However you pronounce it.
Or whatever, however you pronounce it, yeah. But that game was just, whew, that felt different to me because I think that was my first indie survival horror game that I played. Sheesh. That's all I gotta say about it.
And you have me interested. I gotta check it out now.
I think wait, no, you don't have Xbox, you got PC, right?
No, I have all 3.
Okay, I think it's on Game Pass for free.
Nice, cool. Well, Game Pass works on PC too.
Yeah.
Cool. I'll probably play on PC. Okay. Rapid, what do you got?
Off the top of my head, I don't remember. Honestly, it's definitely one of my favorites. I honestly have to go with that one. I'm surprised you even knew about that, Logan, because that was one of those games that I played since it came out. It was an early access, and I was like, no one talks about this game. But yeah, I agree. It's definitely one though. If you like first person, slower pace, psychological, and it's challenging. It's not you could say it's a walk-in simulator, but I would actually say it's one of the better ones, really good ones, where it's not so much you're just walking, scary thing happens, you're actually engaged in the world, and it gets crazy too, because I think there's different characters and stages. It gets wild and crazy, and it's actually scary. It's not lights flicker and ooh, jump scare. It actually engages with the gameplay, and it actually affects your character because there's I forgot what they call it. It's like a trauma meter or whatever. But if you're in the dark for too long, you start seeing things. You start seeing ghosts. Lights start flickering. The radio starts flickering, or starts freaking out. So I'd probably have to go with that one too. It's definitely, and I've never finished it too. But from what I did play, oh yeah, it's in horror games usually don't get me. But there's a couple of sequences in that game that actually got me. And I was like, all right. I don't even remember who made it, but it's definitely one of the better indie horror games out there.
Damn. Yeah, I gotta check that out. Especially, you guys both gave it a shout out. I would probably say I'm between two. I think I'm gonna go with hopefully I pronounce this right, Elisa. It's that like Alice in Wonderland survival horror experience. The controls are extremely hardcore tank controls, and the graphics are awful as hell. But you know what? It's so much fun. It's basically a classic survival horror experience, but with the Alice in Wonderland cosmetics, I guess. And it's just really cool because there's a lot of puzzles to solve. And as you guys know, I love my classic survival horror games with my puzzle solving. And I just have a lot of fun playing that. So I would probably say that one. I'll give another shout out to Rule of Rose. I'll give another shout out to Tormented Souls. Probably those three are probably what the first ones that come to mind. Actually, Rule of Rose isn't really an indie game, I don't think. Is it?
I'm not too sure because
Yeah.
I never heard of it.
Oh, I don't think that's an indie game. So let's stick with Elisa.
All right.
Lisa's a good one too. Yeah, I finished. I love that game too. I'm glad you brought that up as well. That's another
So good.
one worth
Absolutely amazing. Okay, so move on to our last question before we jump over to the questions in the chat. And that is there a horror game you're looking forward to other than Resident Evil? This is from, I didn't finish writing your username. I'm so sorry. It's Lego something. I know it's earlier in the chat too. I saw you here. Lego She. Okay.
Center,
you can start us off. Favorite horror game that you're looking forward to other than Resident Evil?
Yeah.
Alan Wake 2, easily. It was
Originally supposed to be releasing a day before my birthday, and I thought it was gonna be a nice birthday present, but you know we gotta push it back to Halloween, so I guess I got a pre-order. So it's good. I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna get me into the series. I think I will probably play. I don't know if the remastered version is on Game Pass, but if it isn't, then I might not play it. But it intrigued me a lot, and seeing the gameplay, it just reminds me a lot like RE2 Remake. So that's the one thing I'm looking forward to the most. And yeah, I wish I could have said Silent Hill 2 Remake, but you know, PlayStation.
I feel that. Plus, honestly, you know, Bloober Team with the whole Silent Hill 2 remake, it's a wild card when it comes to Bloober Team. What do you got, Rapid?
There's so many. If I had to choose one, it's between Silent Hill 2 and that one indie horror game, Echoes of the Living.
Echoes of the Living, yeah.
Yeah, so that's a classic style Resident Evil game. I'm excited for that one. Tormented Souls 2, Silent Hill 2. I mean, everything that I'm excited for horror wise is pretty much equal. Alan Wake 2. I mean, everything. It's kind of just equal. But if we're talking, I mean, technically, I mean, I think EA Motive, the people who made the Dead Space remake, basically confirmed that they're working on Dead Space 2, at least at some point. I don't remember what they said, but I remember there was like an article or something where they basically said, you know, the first game, people love it so much, it's like, why wouldn't they make a second one? So I guess in terms of unconfirmed games, but I am most certain that, you know, they're going to make is the Dead Space 2 remake, because I love the original Dead Space 2. Because to me, that is more along the lines of Resident Evil 4, because the first game focuses a lot more on like the slower, creepy horror, where the second game kind of ramps it up, you know, makes it a little more action, you know, packed, but still keeps those horror elements. So I don't know if I have like a favorite. I guess Silent Hill 2, but for the most part, I'm kind of excited for everything equally.
Cool. Yeah, this is a hard question. I think the obvious answer for me would be either Silent Hill 2 or Alan Wake 2. I'm really excited for both of them. To kind of throw a small little title out there that I'm really excited for, that, like, if you asked me last week, Silent Hill 2 would be my number one anticipated game. But honestly, a smaller game that might be able to compete with Silent Hill 2, Tormented Souls 2. Now that was announced, I'm really excited and hype. I get it. A lot of people didn't love Tormented Souls 1. I totally understand it, but I have full hope, like full faith in these guys to deliver a game that's much superior to the original. I think they are going to learn from all the mistakes they made from the original game and apply it to the sequel. So I'm really, really excited for Tormented Souls 2. Obviously Silent Hill 2, Alan Wake 2, and I'll throw a post-trauma in there too. But Echoes of the Living, we talked about this on last week's episode. Guys, if you love Resident Evil 2, this is literally a clone of Resident Evil 2. It literally is. There's a demo available if you guys want to play that, though. But I played it actually because Rapid brought it up last week, and I played it yesterday. and I'm like, you know what? This is literally Resident Evil 2. It 100% is. So I'm really excited for that game too. All right. Actually, real quick before we move on, Sinner, did you ever hear or do any or play the demo for Echoes of the Living?
Nope. Neither for Alone in the Dark, if there was a demo for that.
The Alone in the Dark, it did have a demo. It wasn't good, in my opinion. So I'll leave it at that.
Well, good news.
For sure. I mean, it's because it didn't show much gameplay, in my opinion. But all right, so let's jump to today's questions. All the questions posted in the chat today. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We're gonna get to as many questions as possible for as long as these guys are willing to stay with me. So let's start with the first one from Legoshi. Is there a horror game next to Resident? Okay, so you asked the same question you asked last week. We'll move on. Thank you again for asking questions, but you have other questions for us. Will you do backstories of any Resident Evil characters for either original or remake versions? I think that is a question for this channel. I don't know yet, honestly. I love doing ranking videos. I haven't explored the fact of doing backstories for characters. I think you guys do that on your channel, though, don't you?
It's
rankings or backstories?
Backstories on Resident Evil characters.
It's probably more of Logan's alley. I don't think I've ever done any.
Oh man, I really want to do Leon's, and I want to mix original and remake from 2 and 4. I wanted to test the waters because I think a few weeks ago I ended up doing a backstory video about the Los Illuminados, and I combined both the original and remake lores to it.
Ooh.
And I felt very confident in that video, and I thought I was satisfied with it. And more so, I want to do more, but more so with the characters. The only thing is that I know it's going to take long. It 100% will, because I did another video talking about the Lisa Trevor backstory and her family. That took 25 minutes long. I didn't expect it to be that long. And I just couldn't imagine on what it could be for a character like Leon or Jill or Chris. So it's something I want to do. I want to make a series called Resident Evil Profiles and then just insert the character's name and whatnot. But it really does depend on how clear my schedule is, because I think I have the Silent Hill video. I also have another really crazy video talking about characters getting killed off that might drop next week or later this week. Well, next week probably, since it's Saturday. And a challenge video maybe, but I don't know. I'm just basically saying my entirety of content ideas that I have right now, but Profiles is definitely something that's always crossed my mind, but I want to do it, but I know it's going to be a grind to pull it off.
Nice. Yeah.
Especially in the way that I want to tackle it. Like a 20 to 30 minute video, it's going to be pretty long. So maybe one day I'll do it.
That's cool. Honestly, for me personally, never is a strong word, because I already started doing stuff I didn't think I was gonna do anything like this. So never is a strong word. I don't see myself diving now into that. So maybe follow Sinner if you guys haven't subscribed to Sinner's channel yet. We'll do the plugin later today, later on at the end of the stream. But probably check him out, because he's probably more likely to do backstories than I am. I think the thing that concerns me the most about doing videos like that is that all it takes is one small mistake, and then people will like hit you up consistently. Like they will jump on that mistake if you get one small thing wrong.
100%. And yeah, there's always a fear factor with those kind of things. It's like if you get one thing wrong, or if you don't mention one thing, they're on you like peanut butter and jelly.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's the reason why I'm too scared to do it. But maybe one day. But Sinner, if you continue to do it, for sure, if you do the profile things, I'll definitely love to check it out. I love watching videos like that. I'm a little wuss, I guess. So
that's all good. That's all good. I'll be honest with you guys. I don't really watch much Resident Evil videos. Mostly the thing that I just want to do is try my best to perfect my craft, because I know I'm not perfect at what I do, and just take it step by step, video by video. So that's kind of my approach with the YouTube side of things, and that's no disrespect to you guys at all. I know you guys are great at what you do. Just trying to focus on what I can do to better my channel, the fan base, and whatnot.
For sure, that's all any of us can do. You guys do a killer job at it. Like a lot of inspiration comes from you guys. So
We
Keep doing
appreciate
it.
that.
Likewise.
All right, so moving on to another question from, or I'm sorry, not another question. Dark Attack. We kind of touched on this, so we'll probably just answer this really quick. But have you guys played the Little Nightmares games? I have never played a Little Nightmares game. Rapid.
Played the first, never finished the second. Definitely worth playing though. And if you can get them on sale, the second game you can probably get for like $5 or $10. First game, I think I picked it up for like a couple of dollars. So, and I don't know if they're on Game Pass, but yeah, if anyone likes that style of game, I'd definitely check it out. I think it's worth it.
Yeah, I'm gonna check it out now for sure. Center.
For me, no thoughts and no relationship with that.
Nice. Cool. Moving on to the next one. Which Resident Evil game would you like to see remastered? Well, considering the fact that we're getting remakes of every single Resident Evil main entry nowadays, I would say for a remaster, I think I want to go with something that I don't think we'll ever get a remake for, but hopefully maybe we can get a remaster and get some servers up for it, and that would be the Outbreak Files. I think that's my go-to answer.
I agree with you as well. I think it would be a perfect game with the scenarios, the characters, backgrounds, connecting with multiple people, and even messing around, challenging yourselves. It could just be really great, and it probably would convince them to possibly make an Outbreak File 3 in a modern way. But I don't know. But the Outbreak series, and especially for a remaster, 100% that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't think we'll get remakes of it. I think our best bet is to remaster with dedicated servers, and I'm good with that. And you know what? We got 3 guys, so we're good to go. Let's do it.
Yeah, exactly. As long as Capcom makes a crossplay.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
For me or Manny?
Oh, no. Center. Sorry, I missed what you said.
Oh yeah, as long as Capcom makes a crossplay.
Nice. Yeah, agreed. Rapid, what do you got?
Wouldn't be any reason not to. No, I agree. If initial thought was basically what like the entire community is begging for, and that's remaster the first 3 games and put them in a collection. My only worry is after recently playing all of their Mega Man collections and their Street Fighter collections, I'm scared because basically how those games are made, at least the Street Fighter ones, it's kind of just their own built-in emulator, and then it's just kind of just the game stripped out from the original, but just worse. So, you know, shout out Capcom. I'd be scared they'd mess it up, but assuming that they don't, because again, it's one like every time they tweet out something Resident Evil, you go in the comments, there's so many people asking for a remaster trilogy, just done right. You know, I think any fan wants it done right. But
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, for a standalone game though, definitely Outbreak. I mean, do I want a remake of it? Absolutely, but are we gonna get it? Probably not. But if they could remaster it, I mean, yeah, I'd play those games. You know, despite the controls and whatnot. I mean, I still play those games now. Like I still play, the original games now. So if they could remaster those, oh yeah, most definitely. And crossplay, because games like that where it's like they're not PvP focused, where it's like, oh, keyboard and mouse has an advantage or a disadvantage, there's no reason not to add crossplay. So, and plus, just like Reverse had crossplay. Resistance, I think, would have done better for that crossplay, because I heard on consoles there's actually way more players playing Resistance right now than there are on PC. So,
yeah, I think on the Steam base as well, I think Resistance is literally dominating Reverse. And I'm not even gonna lie, for like crossplay, I did say a long, long time ago that it was a saving grace. Maybe it kept the game alive for another week, and then that was probably it for Reverse.
yeah, because on PC just recently I tried playing Resistance and I cannot get into any servers. There's actually cheaters on PC now too.
Really?
There's this weird bug where they spam the I think it's called an RP booster, the RP booster thing on your screen. And you just hear like this really like screechy noise, like in your head. I don't know, it's some weird like cheat exploit that they do now. So it's almost impossible to play the game on PC, but on console, apparently it has its own dedicated player base, where people still play, and there's really, really small channels still posting gameplays of it. So crossplay would definitely be the saving grace, because I think in terms of I think for Resident Evil in general, I feel like the player base is much bigger on consoles. So
I agree with
especially with backwards compatibility on Xbox. So Yeah, if you get a remaster of Outbreak, crossplay is like a must.
But damn, cheating on a dead game.
Even Reverse, there's
That's a
cheaters
new
on
low,
Reverse.
honestly, for sure.
There's cheaters on Reverse and Resistance. That's why, you know.
I mean, there's cheaters on everything. You know, it
Yeah.
is what it is.
Yeah,
no
for sure.
surprise.
That's the
But
reason
yeah.
why I prefer to play console instead of PC. And sometimes I try to turn off crossplay, but
Yeah, it's a much better experience.
yeah. I heard from Dark Attack. I heard Fort Solace is more of a walking sim experience. Is it? So I ordered a hard copy of Fort Solace for some dumbass reason, and I ordered it from Amazon, and it is not here yet. So I have not played that game, despite me wanting to get it day one. I haven't heard anything about it. I've been trying to kind of like avoid hearing too much about it, but I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case, because I mentioned last week on the podcast that I feel like that the trailer, the 14 minutes gameplay trailer that we got, there was no combat in it at all. And I was like, that's kind of concerning. This is a launch trailer showing off a lot of gameplay, 14 minutes of gameplay, and all it was just like the character walking and talking to someone. So that wouldn't surprise me one bit. I'm still excited to check it out, mainly just because of the cast, but I haven't had a chance to play it yet. Have you guys touched it at all or heard anything about it yet?
I heard a few things. I honestly was kind of comparing it to Callisto Protocol, but now hearing that it's a walking simulator, I couldn't imagine how Callisto Protocol would work if it was a walking simulator with all those enemies chasing you. But yeah, I don't know. I think some people might call it Fort Soulless, since that term has been going around the
Oh
RE
my God, I never
community.
heard that's harsh.
Yeah, that term it's been going around the RE community since before Remake dropped. Shout out Kroby Cat for that, but yeah, that's
Yeah.
pretty. Yeah, I feel like some people might catch on to Fort Soulless. So yeah,
Interesting. Rapid, have you heard anything or played this yet?
I've seen a ton of videos, and I've seen all the reviews. I haven't played it, so I can't comment on it. But yeah, the feedback seems interesting. But
It's funny,
I'll
'cause
definitely
people were
wait.
talking about it was going to be a dark horse before its release, and now I guess it's getting the opposite feedback right now.
I'm not
Yes,
even gonna
I'll-
lie. I didn't even know that it was that it. I remember you ended up asking me to show up on the podcast. I think last week.
Mhm.
I didn't even know that the release date was actually like a few days away until you mentioned it. I heard about the game. I just didn't know. It's like they shadow dropped it.
No, I mean, they did a lot of marketing on it. It's just, it wasn't good. I don't remember seeing any good marketing on this game at all, other than, focusing on the cast. They kept focusing on, hey, look, it's Roger Clark and what's the other one?
Troy Baker.
Troy Baker. They're gonna be in the game. So they just kept focusing on that and not showing really any good gameplay. So I'm not too shocked to hear that it might be called a walking simulator, or as Logan said, Fort Solace. That's pretty messed up. I love it though. I'm even
man.
less excited for it to arrive now. All right, so from Emmanuel G40 History Talk, their question is Dino Crisis being remade? I hope. I don't know if it's going to be coming for a while, and we have no sources telling us that it is, but I hope. That's all I can pretty much say. I think if we do get it, it's going to be after, Resident Evil has been kind of milked dry, though. But what do you guys think, Logan?
I think if we invade the Capcom headquarters and camp out on their walls and haunt them for like a few months, I think we can do it. But as of right now, probably not. I don't think it's in development. I don't know if it's anytime soon. I think they would probably develop Code Veronica remake before Dino Crisis. But if these dinosaur games are popping off, then you just never know.
Yeah, Rapid?
All they got to do. Do I think it's being remade now? Absolutely not. I feel like it's being considered, especially since in some of their dev interviews for their other games, the developers like hints like, yeah, we're aware Dino Crisis is beloved. So fans are like, okay, well, we'll remake it. We dare you. I mean, they have the formula's there. Go back to the RE2 remake and just make that, but with dinosaurs, and there you go. I mean, that's
Right.
basically what the original games were, and that's really all they have to do. So for me personally, being someone who never finished any of the games, I mean, that's really all they have to do is just the formula is there. I think because it's like, I mean, Street Fighter 6 just came out, but it's like their other franchises for the most part, they just get ports like Mega Man. We're not getting Mega Man 12 anytime soon, as far as I know, but they're releasing X Dive in a few days. So it seems like they focus more on like these ports and remasters. But when it comes to Resident Evil, it's like remakes and new
I would be
mainline
okay with the
games.
remaster, honestly, Dino Crisis. If you're not going to give me a remake for a while, fine. Just throw out me like a remaster of it, I guess.
Yeah, because I know there's a lot of people who don't care about this. For me, I'm pretty big on this. I like having my games on PC, specifically Steam, because player time, to me, seeing how like much I know live the game is big to me. And so like you have time, you have achievements, and people say you can like emulate those, but I mean, it's some people don't want to go through that hassle. You're talking to someone who's, spend hours doing that, but there's a lot of people who don't want to spend all that time emulating. They would rather just buy the game and play it.
Right.
So yeah, if anything, a remaster, like something, and like people say, it's easy money, don't be lazy with your port, like GTA Trilogy type lazy, but it's like, make it decent, improve the resolution, basically do what modders do, but just as good, if not better, increase the resolution, have basic screen settings, like, windowed, full screen, different control schemes, and there you go. Maybe like if you want to go the extra mile, you can have character models, you can have art like the remakes. So you have character model viewers, you have, you can look at the artwork, concept art, just like little things like that, especially for hardcore fans. Like for someone like me, I am so big. I did 2 huge videos on my channel that were basically just focused on the concept art for 7 and Village, because to me, like concept art, they don't always use the concepts in those games. And so like there's a lot of cool stuff. Like as a fan, you go through that like, whoa, that would, even the RE4 remake, the concept art for the first house, I was looking at that, and if you actually look at it, it's very similar to the original game's art style, like the brown, very open, tree scheme compared to how the game turned out. So it's little things like that in the artwork that like us fans like really like crave and get excited over. So
nice.
Yeah, Dino Crisis, I mean, if I want a remake, I think anyone would prefer something, a sequel. I don't think a sequel is likely. I think when a series is kind of out of the waters for this long, it's better just to do a remake, especially with the Resident Evil remakes being like their essentially their biggest money making thing right now.
Yeah, I mean, just under Monster Hunter, I think, right? It's their
Monster Hunter is their most sold game of all time, and then 2 remake, base sales wise, became their most sold RE game. And I do think 100% if they did end up doing Dino Crisis, of course, they got to do it in the RE engine. That's been
100%.
One of the saving graces for Capcom in general as a gaming company. So, yeah, that's how I would say it, though. And speaking of your concept art take, Manny, for Resident Evil, they don't want a Resident Evil Village.
Wait, you said what?
Ada and RE Village.
Oh yeah, like that's a big one. That's like you can play that game, like casual fans will play that game, never look at the artwork, and have no idea that Ada was supposed to be in that game.
Yeah. I think my favorite concept art was it Spider-Man or the human spider? It was supposed to be that combination between a spider and a man, I guess, literally.
Yeah.
I forgot which game that was. I think it was the original Resident Evil concept art.
Yeah, sometimes the characters that they cut out, even Marguerite, if you look at the RE7 concept art, I mean, in the game she was terrifying, but the concept art, I mean, God, I just felt like they had plans to make it like even scarier. Like it's just like little things like that it makes, and it's cool because there's actually a book called the RE7 Document File where they actually go through the entire development history of RE7.
Dang, that's
so
cool.
It talks about like the developers like mindset and like how they made the game and whatnot. So yeah, concept art and whatnot. Like it's little things like that in ports and remasters, at least to me, mean more. Because to most people, it's like, well, just emulate the games. Well, it's like, yeah, but have an official concept art and official character models and seeing it come directly from the developers. It's almost like a love letter to fans rather than just go and emulate this old game that you used to play when you were a kid. Yeah. It's different when developers remaster and do ports again, because they hopefully put that kind of love into the game to, send it to fans like, hey, you guys remember this? Well, we love you guys. So here's this little special treat. So hoping one day, we get remasters. And like I said, not everything has to be a remake. I'll take a remaster. I'll take a Dino Crisis remaster, a original Resident Evil trilogy remaster, Outbreak remaster. Just give me some.
I feel that. No, I'm with you. So Dark Attack, which has a ton of questions for us apparently. Another question was, what is the worst horror game you guys have ever played? He said his was Layers of Fear. Mine. I think, and maybe it's just because of recency bias. I think I'm gonna go with Unholy. I did not like Unholy at all. It was pretty awful actually. I think that's the first one that comes to mind. I'm trying to think of like other ones, and I know there are probably much worse horror games I've played in the past, but that's the first one that comes to mind. I think that game was just completely like just really bad. What do you guys got?
I'm trying to think of the horror games that I've played aside from RE. Well, honestly, now that I think of it, I'm gonna go with Resident Evil 0.
Oh no, Logan, why are you doing this?
Hey man, I want a remake. I want a co-op remake where it's like you have assisted, standard, and hardcore. Assisted and standard has the item box. Hardcore, no item box kind of thing. I think that's what I want. I also don't. I want the opera gone from James Marcus. I want that gone.
Oh man, you're breaking my heart. I love Resident Evil 0. I'm one of the.
If I had to pick a horror game, it would have to be that one. Especially for a game that I beat. I just didn't. I remember my first playthrough. I said this was the worst game I ever played in my life, but then I let go of that, and I was like, okay, it's not too bad. But I still picked it as my worst horror game. So yeah, I guess.
Okay, did not see that coming at all. Honestly, RapidCrafter, what do you got?
Going off of what Logan said to RE0, I didn't think it would make much of a difference, but playing that game with the recent item box mod that just came out makes RE0 20 times better. I swear, I was like, well, how an item box functions, it can't make the game that much different. But considering that was one of my biggest problems with the original, or with RE0, was, your inventory constantly being full and you have to drop all these items, and then you go to one side of the mansion or the train, and then it's like, oh shoot, I gotta run all the way back. So the item box mod is like really good. So if anyone has,
and also about controlling on whether if you want Billy or Rebecca to attack or stay put or just follow you and not shoot when there's like 3 zombies in your face. So like it's
super
a really confusing game. It's like, and the inventory management isn't that terrible.
I shouldn't be in this call. I should not be on this podcast at all. You guys are breaking my heart so much right now.
That's another thing.
Personally, I'm actually one of the few people I feel like I really love Ari. So I do feel like it. I don't know. It's a weird. I feel like the hate's justified. As much as I love that game and I've beaten it hundreds of times, I think the hate's justified. I just think because I think the concepts in that game are great. It's just the execution is poorly done. Like the co-op mechanic, people were like, well, it's, the co-op mechanics suck, blah, blah, blah. Just like RE5, people are like the co-op sucks, blah, blah. The co-op doesn't suck. That's not the part that sucks. It's the way it's designed and how it's executed. Like Logan said, it's like there could be 20 zombies in the room and Billy just sits there or Rebecca just sits there. But then other times they react. It's super inconsistent. It almost feels like it was meant to be co-op. Or like it's fitted for just that, but just it's poorly designed, and AI in early Capcom days wasn't the greatest. I mean, RE5, but item box mod definitely makes the game better, but that doesn't, there's so many other issues with that game. That's just, and I love that game, but yeah, there's without a doubt there's so many issues with it, but it's not horrible to me, at least. It's not the worst.
Is that your worst played horror game of all time?
Oh no, so I was just going off that. So my worst horror game, it's so random, but Hello Neighbor, the first Hello Neighbor, that was one of the worst games I've ever played, because I spent a full $30 on that game, and I remember sitting on it for a while, and I was like, looks, because for me, one of my favorite parts about horror games is getting chased. I love getting chased. So I love games like Outlast, because I don't get scared by horror games. I'm so fatigued by it, but getting chased is a totally different story. Because I'm like, well, if you throw me in an asylum in real life and there's some big giant dude chasing me, of course I'm gonna be terrified. I'm gonna be sprinting for my life. And so horror games kind of simulate that for me. Hello Neighbor did not do that. The AI was broken. The story sucked. The game was it was decently long. It was like I think I beat it like 9 hours. Um, and that's probably a hot take because so many people love that game. But I think it was just kind of the um, I don't know. I think it was capturing that Five Nights at Freddy's audience where they just love that style of game. But for me, like as a video game, not even just a horror game, as a video game, it just wasn't good. It wasn't scary. It wasn't terrifying. The AI was super busted. So anytime the worst horror game in my mind pops, it's either that or if we're talking pure horror, a few months ago, I would say the Callisto Protocol. And now I actually love that game a lot more than I did at launch. But at launch, it was terrible. I mean, the frame rate, it was just, I mean, I can go down a whole list. But yeah, probably one of those two. Callisto's not as bad. Story DLC was terrible. The side little survival mode they put out was actually really fun. And I actually think it's better than the main game. A lot of people slept on it, but I actually think their survival mode, like COD Zombies type DLC that they put out, was like better than anything else in that game. But yeah, it'd be between that or Hello Neighbor for sure.
Okay. Worst Resident Evil boss fight.
Oh Lord.
I honestly don't even know how to answer this question. I mean, I can look at it from the easiest or most annoying. I don't even know. Do one of you guys already have an answer ready?
I can think of a few. Dog Nemesis and RE3 remake. I think the first fight was fun. Second fight was, I think it was just because it was a copy and paste. Like it's so like, I don't know. Every time I think about the game, I'm just like, why? Because I see what they were trying to do. Because the second to last fight in the RE3 remake, you shoot the little acid things, and I get what they were trying to do. They were trying to replicate, the acid fight from the original. It was just poorly executed. That fight,
I think the
Resident
first one
Evil
that comes to mind for me would be, and I'm sure there's much worse fights, but the first one that comes to mind for me is Resident Evil 6 Derek Simmons. Whole encounter, that whole phase with him, starting from like Leon's encounter with him on the train all the way to like the multi-phase like fight that is continuously and non-stop, and it just never ends. It's just like you got the giant like fly part, you got the dinosaur part. It's like, how many transformations does this guy have? Like, seriously. So I found that one extremely annoying. I didn't like that one at all.
Yeah, that one's definitely up there too. Like, now that you mention it, yeah, it's like, okay, you fight him in the arena as a dinosaur, you fight him outside, on the bridge area, and then you have that whole entire sequence with Ada. Then you fight him again in the final boss, and you got to shoot the RPG. It's like, yeah, like you said, it's
just never ending. I just can't. Yeah, I don't know. I would probably say that probably has to be
the shitty thing about that is that you have to redo it all again with Ada.
Yeah, I know.
That's the shittier thing about it. And I was actually really thinking of RE6. I was thinking of Deborah in Chapter 2 for Leon's campaign.
Oh, yeah, true.
But I do think now that you mentioned the BOW T-Rex, the train fight where Leon is jumping 50 meters easily, but when he did that in 4 remake as well, when he stabbed Sadler at the end of that boss fight. So, but yeah, I'm just gonna not acknowledge that. Just there was too much. There's too much with Simmons boss fights to the point where it's like, oh, great, him again. It's not. There's no excitement towards it. It's like, great, you.
I actually do have my final answer though.
Oh yeah, what's your final answer?
House Beneviento from Village.
No,
that is the worst boss fight because it's not even. To me, it's not even a boss fight. It's one of those where the DLC Shadows of Rose did it better than the main game, and I think because Shadows of Rose to me was more of I should replay it again. It's because I haven't played it since launch, but I remember one of the strongest parts of that DLC was I feel like it did the house better than the main game did. Obviously the baby was like the highlight, but like every time you ask someone like, what do you like about Village? The baby, the baby, the baby. But like that was to me the only good part and scariest part of that game, but the rest of the game wasn't scary. The rest of the game didn't catch that same feeling. Whereas Shadows of Rose really took advantage of the doll aspect. I feel like the dolls were scarier in the DLC. And in Shadows of Rose, in that house, you fight Evelyn, which was also like an awkward boss fight, but at least that was a boss fight compared to House Beneviento in the main game, where it's just like Logan said, it's just hide and seek.
I will say one thing about that the Village DLC and with the Mia dolls. Sometimes the best music is no music.
Yeah, I agree.
When you
Fair.
just hear those foots just creeping on you, that's kind of like what gets you going. It makes you fit into like the real life aspect. You don't have like this crazy horror soundtrack behind you. If there's just nothing at all and all you hear is those footsteps, that's what's terrifying to me.
Yeah, the Shadows of Rose DLC is very I don't know. It doesn't get
Unique.
enough attention. It deserves a lot more attention. It actually did really good, and from a survival horror, like from the horror aspect, I feel like it was scarier than the main game for sure. The mannequins still kind of stick with me. So I really like the Shadows of Rose DLC. I
And
need
they
to
don't-
replay it too. It's been a while.
Yeah, they don't warn you either, because if you replay that, like at least with the main game, the baby, you the first time you don't see it coming, but after that you do see it coming because it spawns in front of you.
Yeah.
In the Shadows of Rose DLC with the mannequins, they like the mannequins don't all spawn in front of you, because I remember I think there's like I have to replay it, but there's parts where you see the mannequin, but then you start hearing footsteps behind you and you really start panicking because they don't warn you that like there's more of them. You think there's just one, but then you start hearing, like Logan said, if you take away the music and you just hear the footsteps, you'll play that for the first time and think, oh, there's just one of them. But then you hear an extra pair of footsteps, you're like, wait, where's that coming from?
That's so
And
good.
and they start picking up speed too. So yeah, I agree. Shadows of Rose doesn't get enough love.
For sure.
But yeah, worst
Um,
boss fights, definitely the house in the main game.
I disagree,
me.
but whatever you say.
It's not the nah, it's not. I just didn't think it was a boss. So I can see why people
I
liked
thought it was cool, like to an extent. Like I know for a boss fight, it wasn't the greatest, but you know, it definitely had me like nervous and freaking out throughout the entire encounter. So I'm good with it to an extent.
I think for me, what would have worked is if they shut off all the lights in that house, so it was pitch black, and all you have is a
Yeah, that
flashlight.
would've been cool.
Because on the official village map for the collector's edition when it came out, you can see the tall enemy with the scythe that was in the storybook. If they like maybe she turned into that and that was chasing you around the house, that would have been like terrifying.
Oh yeah,
But
for sure. Yeah, no, I understand where you're coming from for it. So moving on to
This will be my last question, by the way.
Sure, sounds good. Real quick, do you guys think we will get a Dead Space 4? I don't think so. I think they're just gonna focus on the remakes. If we do get a Dead Space 4, it's gonna be after we get every other single game in the trilogy remade. What about you guys?
Yeah, I think if they did Dead Space 4, they would have done it a long time ago. That's how I feel. And especially with on how the reception of the remake is, they want to do 2. I think the attention will be on that. 3 is going to be a little bit interesting if 2 is received extremely well, which I think it will. Like once they end up saying that we're remaking Dead Space 2, but for Dead Space 4, they would have done it a long time ago. I think if they would have, attempted it, but I don't see it happening for a very long time.
No, I agree for sure. Rapid.
they're definitely gonna remake it if these next 2 remakes are successful. I think the second remake will be successful because I think a lot of people can agree that to me the first Dead Space remake is better than the original game. The only thing I like about the original Dead Space is the art style. At least with like some of the character designs and like Isaac's visor, I just like that brighter baby blue color, whereas like the remake kind of tones it down. But for overall, in terms of like gameplay and design, I think the remake is superior in every way.
Sure.
I think they'll carry that over to Dead Space 2. 3 remake is gonna be like, or remaking the third game is gonna be like Capcom remaking RE6, because I think those games came out around the same time. So Dead Space 3 is definitely gonna be the hardest one to remake. But if that's successful as well, then at that point it's like, they have no other choice but to make 4 in that same engine and whatnot. So I think we are at some point. I don't think, truthfully, I don't think it'll be for another like 10 years, maybe a little less, maybe 8, but it'll definitely be a long time before we get 4, if we do get a 4.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I don't know if we'll ever get one, honestly, but who knows?
Yeah.
We'll just have to wait and see what happens. Before we move on to the rest of the questions, I think we have about 3 more, it looks like. Center,
Yeah.
do you want to let everybody know where you're, where everybody can find you at?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter, Center for Evil. You can find me on the YouTube channel, Center for Evil. I mostly post basically whatever kind of Resident Evil videos I want, from leaks, challenge videos, speculation vids, or causing like, good discussions and whatnot. Another thing that I do want to say, Ruben, is that if you do want to use my community polls for something involving your podcast, you have full permission to do so.
Cool.
And it was a great time to just sit back and talk about some good things about survival horror, RE, and just the entire aspect of that. Manny, it's always good to see you on here as well, man. I do hope to do this a little bit more often. I'm not too sure how my schedule will be for next week, but I will keep you posted. And for everyone in the chat, thank you for tuning in for this podcast episode. Check everyone's channels out. If you're new to Nerd Space Games, then hit the sub button on his channel as well. Same with Manny with RapidCrafter. And thank you guys once again. And hope everyone takes care. And I might see you guys again next week. So
For sure, man. Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank
Yeah,
you
for
so much,
sure.
Logan, man.
Yeah.
Truly, like, honestly, it's an honor to have you on board. I already told Manny this last week, but dude, I love your channel. I love Manny's channel. I'm so glad that you were here. And yeah, whenever you want to be on the show, you just let me know. I'd love to have you on. You just keep in touch with me, man. Thanks again for joining us.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, just a quick reminder, you have the full go to use like my community post as well if you want to use it for a podcast episode. So yeah,
Cool.
I'll catch you guys next week if you guys are available, or if I am. So see you guys later.
All right.
For sure, man. Take it easy.
All right, so we'll jump to these last few questions, and then Rapid, you can get out of here too, because we're going even longer than last week's episode. So yay, record.
Yay. It's fun, though.
We'll get better on the timing on this. Try to not keep us here too long.
Yeah.
But yeah, so let's go to the last few questions, and then Manny, if you have to go before we finish this off, just let me know.
For sure.
All right, so question from Matt Formunda. What gun would you want if you were in a survival horror self-defense situation? I don't know. Is this cheating saying the infinite rocket launcher, I guess? I mean, or you know what? I would probably say that, I like the indestructible combat knife in Resident Evil 4, like just maxing that out, having like it be completely durable because it can use it for everything. Yeah, I guess that or the infinite rocket launcher, or maybe even the typewriter. What do you got?
The Striker from Resident Evil 4.
Nice. With the whole, the original Resident Evil 4 with the whole glitch and everything?
I'd say, I was actually going to say the original, but now I'm thinking the remake, because the remake shoots faster, and I think it's actually more powerful than the original. I'd have to look at the exact stats, but
Nice.
yeah, the remakes max out Striker for sure.
Cool. All right. I think. From Kamehameha. Why can't companies make their own? Oh, I don't know if that's a question for us. I don't know. It says something about making their own textures. I never understood the whole AI approach when they perfectly capable. Yeah, I don't think that's a question for us. We'll skip over that one. And the final question it looks like we have in the chat from Emma S. Would a Resident Evil 6 remake be worth it? We actually talked about that at the beginning of the show. I personally wouldn't mind seeing a Resident Evil 6 remake, since we're pretty much going to get a Resident Evil remake of almost every single mainline title anyways. But I want some major changes to the game. Like, I mean, I have a whole video talking about the 10 different things I would change about Resident Evil 6 if they made a remake. So, yeah, I guess it could be worth it. Will we get it? Probably. But I want a ton of different changes. What do you have to say on it, Manny?
Yeah, it's a tough game to remake, because I was going to say there's so many things they can do. They can incorporate every character into one campaign, but I feel like that'll be too complicated. But you also don't want to repeat the same mistake from RE6, where you play other campaigns, but you're replaying the same levels, and so it gets repetitive. But then if you remake entirely new levels for those campaigns, it's going to take even longer in development. So it's I don't know. I had this weird thought before, this weird, like really strange hot take, which I don't think they'll do, but it's something I would consider is if they remake RE6, just focus on like um Leon and Chris or something, which is like weird. It's like why would you cut out Jake and Ada? I I said focus on like 2 characters or like 4 characters max,
I
and
said the
every
same
other
thing, honestly, on a video.
and, yeah, and every other character can just be like DLC or something, you know, or like something, like do something with that, because I feel like that's one of the game's biggest issues is there's too many characters, and I see what they were trying to do, but the problem is, you know, it gets repetitive. You play through the same levels, um, and even though their interactions end up matching up, it's just it becomes too repetitive, and design wise, just you know, just doesn't really make sense. So it's definitely going to be their hardest game to remake, but would it be worth it? Ultimately, yeah. I just think they have to do it right, um, and obviously make the call-out mechanics worth it. And the question is too is like, do you give the players an AI partner, or do you make it like Ada's campaign, where if you play by yourself, it's just you, but if someone taps in, then you know their character spawns in, but that's weird on its own. So it's I don't know. I don't know how they're gonna do it. But would I buy it? Would I play it? Absolutely, 100%. And would it be worth it? Only if they do it right. And truthfully, if they take their time with it, I feel like what they should do is make the RE6 that, like, at the time, the alternate universe version of Capcom would have made. That would have actually been received well by fans, instead of this like over the top Michael Bay action game.
Cool. No, I agree with a lot of those changes. Like I said, I have a whole video dedicated to it, so I'm not going to talk too much about it. Overall, I just said that I don't really want co-op. I think there's too many campaigns. I think focusing on 2 characters, just like you said, is probably one of the biggest changes they need to make. I mentioned even trying to focus on one specific location instead of going all the way to China and Tall Oaks and the fictional country that they go to. I can't remember what that place is called.
Yeah.
So it's just like, I think it's just all over the place, and trying to focus on a concise story will be the biggest change that they can make to the game. But yeah, no, thank you so much for all the questions, guys. It truly means a lot. Thank you so much for tuning in on this episode. If you're watching this video after we were live, you can actually head to the comment section and leave questions that you want us to answer on next week's episode of the podcast. Once again, this video went over 2 hours. We're trying to kind of work on our timing. Hopefully we can get this to be a little bit shorter for you guys. But again, thank you so much for tuning in live for this podcast. Before we go, I want to go ahead and let you guys know, RapidCrafter, you can check him out. Rapid, let the viewers know where everybody can find you at.
For sure, you guys can check me out on Twitter at RapidCrafterYT, on YouTube at RapidCrafter. And as usual, guys, if you guys are new to the Nerd Space Games YouTube channel, be sure to subscribe, drop a like on the stream. And if you have any further questions, drop them in the comment section down below.
All right, man. Manny, thank you so much for joining me once again. I love having you on. Hopefully we'll see you next week. If not, again, a blessing to have you whenever we can. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. This is the end of our episode of the Survival Horror Podcast. This show airs every single Saturday at 9 p.m. Eastern. So tune in, ask questions. We love interacting with you guys and each other about the survival horror genre. We absolutely love survival horror games, and that's why we come here every single week to talk about it. So again, Manny, thanks for joining me. Logan, I know you're not here right now, but thank you for joining us. And until next time, guys, I'll see you on the next episode of the Survival Horror Podcast. Take care.
Take it easy, guys.